Okay. All right. All right. So,
All right. Yes, indeed. Family. Greetings. Greetings. This is Kyle Dixon here and Kylie Bentley here for another Grand Rising Collective podcast. So, again, typically we have guests on our podcast. We tend to have guests from the community, whether it be communities here in New York or whether it be abroad across the nation. But today we decided to have just a one-on-one with you all, just myself and my co-host today for y'all. So in reference of Grand Rise Collective, if this is your first time viewing us, welcome. And we are a podcast that is about excellence, about being your best. And the term Grand Rising comes from an endearing term in the morning, like when people say good morning, some people say grand rising, good rising. And it's a reminder to start the day at your best with excellent intentions, excellence in reference of your actions, and also in a personal mantra to say that you want to rise to the occasion of challenges and obstacles that you have in your life. And there's a lot of challenges and obstacles going on currently in America right now. And we're definitely going to talk about those, family, today on this session. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my co-host. And Kylie, take it away, sir.
thank you, sir. Appreciate you as always. My name is Kaide Bentley. Those who are, our subscribers, thank you for continuing to support us and engage with us. And those of you who are new, you're going to get to know me. And part of that is my introduction right now in regards to who I am. Again, my name is Kaide Bentley. And I think it's important that you know who's speaking to you as well as who you're listening to. So with that said, I'm president of an organization called 4Ts, which stands for Teaching Teens to Think. Mission is to help inner city youth identify their inherent skill set, meaning what they do naturally, so that way they can use it to excel in education as well as higher education, that being college, in order to get a job, establish a career, and ultimately start a business if they choose to. These programs and services that I offer is for a demographic between the ages of 16 and 24. That's my hat as far as the entrepreneur. I'm also a professor at Fordham University, and I also sit on the advisory board of LIU. The reason why I say that and explain that is because I also like to combine that with why I'm a part of the Grand Rising Collective with my brother and colleague Kyle Dixon. It's in order to disseminate the information that I'm able to share with these young people to our community at large, to take our conversations out of a bubble and bring it to all of us, be it parents, community leaders, community organizers, those in the community, share that wealth of information so that way they can use it to build the community up and make more for a leveraged economic platform. So that's the long and short of it. I'm honored to be a part here of the Grand Rising Collective. We have a lot of things that we want to talk about. And as Kyle stated, we don't have any guests because I think us as co-hosts really want to get into these topics, which are to some degree very sensitive.
Yes.
And, for certain viewers, an advisory warning. Some of the content may be not suitable for certain viewers because of its intensity. So I think that's important to say, but that's my introduction. Thank you so very much, Kyle. And if I forgot anything, I'm sorry. Hit us with text, send us a message or what have you. We're going to give you our handles, and let us know what else we probably did not cover, what I may not have covered. But thank you, Kyle. All yours.
Indeed. No, it's definitely if we forgot a family, blame it on the mind and not the heart. So seriously, and again, we probably cover it as we talk with this episode today. So we have a lot going on in America, as you are, unless you've been under a rock somewhere or away from social media or doing some sabbatical or doing some retreat out in the wilderness with no TV, no social media. We've had a tragedy up in the Midwest and Minneapolis, Minnesota, with a brother named George Floyd. And, it's just a tragedy. And we've had many tragedies this month alone with the brother Ahmaud Arbery and the sister Breonna Thomas in Louisville. And, family, it really disheartens me and it really hurts to see people who are just trying to live their lives really be accosted, be violently murdered, killed, assaulted by just being who they are, and namely who they are, people, what they call the PC term is people of color. Let's just say Black folk. Okay, let's just say African people, African Americans, right? And we're going to talk about that today because it needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about every day, just not on our platform, but every day. And Kaidi, I know you had some stuff that you definitely want to share with the family. We definitely have some stats. We have some information outside of it. So we're not just going to be talking heads today. We're going to give you some actual tangible things to go back and think about, research, discuss, talk amongst your peers, because it definitely needs to be thoroughly talked about and acted upon. So that way these things keep happening much less, if not at all. Okay. So.
All right. So yeah. what I'm about to share, Kyle, and we'll have more discussions on this, is a video of the riots that are taking place throughout the United States with relation to George Floyd's murder. So these are the riots aspect. I'm not sure if the video is going to show the actual officer in his actions to George Floyd. It's going to give you some sense of the outrage that exists today as a result of that officer's action on an innocent civilian who wasn't carrying any weapons and who was detained and could not therefore defend himself. So without any further ado, I'm going to play the video, and then after the video, or some maybe in between the video, we're going to discuss some of the things that's going on. That may be the case, but definitely after the video, we're going to launch into a longer discussion, as well as provide some tangibles and action steps.
All right. So again, family, before he plays the video, again, parental discretion advised. What you might see here, you may not want to see. And I don't necessarily want to see it either. So I'm going to excuse myself.
But Kyle, this isn't the Ahmaud one.
Okay.
This is just the riots taking place with relation to George Floyd.
Okay.
Do that first, okay?
Okay, cool.
For calm tonight after a former police officer was charged with murder and manslaughter in the death of George Floyd, as firefighters cooled the flames from another night of unrest and destruction. The county attorney announced that there was enough evidence to prove Derek Chauvin's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. On Monday, the now fired officer pinned Floyd's neck to the ground for several minutes as he pleaded he couldn't breathe. Our Gabe Gutierrez is in Minneapolis tonight. Gabe, what's the mood on the ground right
now? Lester, calm so far. The mayor here has just imposed a nighttime curfew this weekend. There's also a bigger police presence. What is unclear is whether that might ramp up tensions after an arrest that many protesters here have been waiting for. Tonight, after days of anger, pain, and protests, an arrest connected to the death of George Floyd, fired Minneapolis officer Derek Chauvin is now charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter.
I'm not insensitive to what's happened in the streets. My job is to do it only when we have sufficient evidence. We have it today.
State charging documents allege that Chauvin had his knee on Floyd's neck for 2 minutes and 53 seconds after Floyd became non-responsive, according to body camera video. In all, the complaint says Chauvin had his knee on Floyd's neck for more than 8 minutes. No response yet from Chauvin's attorney. The third night of protests had been the most violent by far. For hours, anarchy, rioters breached and burned this evacuated police precinct. Other buildings crumbled. Local police and firefighters retreated.
It's a scene of utter chaos. Right now, this fire is raging out of control, and smoke is billowing into the air, can be seen for miles.
At daybreak, the destruction devastated this South Minneapolis community.
I'm a grown man. I'm standing here, teared up.
Anger over one man's death had turned into much more, an explosion of fury over years of mistreatment.
This city knew it was coming. They knew it was coming.
Lynette Weisner has lived here all her life.
This right here, the war's here. Do something about it.
And this is
Clean up this police department.
Today, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz promised to restore order and directly criticized local leaders for an inadequate response.
And the reason we're standing here today is if this would have been executed correctly, the state would not lead on this. That did not happen.
The mayor has not yet responded. The governor also apologized to CNN after the state patrol arrested 3 of its journalists on live television, even as looters and vandals were allowed to run free.
I am deeply apologetic that this happened. It is wrong. It is unacceptable. We needed to correct it.
I just hope we can recover from this.
Today's arrest was the news longtime resident Kirsten Olson had been waiting for.
I am ecstatically happy.
James Lawson is more skeptical.
I felt like there was a little bit of sign of relief, but like I said, what about the other 3?
The county attorney says an investigation is underway into the other 3 fired officers, and he anticipates charges. New video from a different angle shows 2 of the officers, not seen before, side by side on the ground next to Officer Chauvin during the incident. Late today, the attorney for Floyd's family responded to the arrest.
They're a little relieved today that the officer was finally arrested. However, they wanted the charges to be first-degree murder.
For a 4th night, this city is on edge, wondering if one officer's arrest is enough to diffuse the tension or whether the anger runs too deep. Dave Gutierrez, NBC News, Minneapolis.
I'm Blaine Alexander. Miles from Minneapolis, anger, frustration pouring into the streets of America.
That could be my father. That could be my brother. That could be me.
From Atlanta to Boston, Houston, to Memphis. Demonstrations turned violent in Denver when a car plowed through protesters. No one was seriously injured.
As a young black woman, I'm used to not being hit. This one, it hits different.
For many, the death of George Floyd only piling on to the mounting anger over the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, the 26-year-old shot at least 8 times last March by police officers who stormed into her home, serving a narcotics search warrant as she and her boyfriend slept. Overnight, in her hometown of Louisville, gunshots ripped through this crowd of protesters, injuring 7.
These shots came from within the crowd, not from police officers.
The peaceful protests erupting into violence on the same day the world heard this frantic 911 call from Taylor's boyfriend.
I don't know what happened. Somebody kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend.
Police say the officers knocked and identified themselves. Taylor's family says they didn't either.
Is she alert and ever talk to you? No, she's not. Breathe. Okay, you said you're in apartment number 4. Hell, oh my God.
Kenneth Walker, who says he thought the officers were intruders, fired a shot that injured 1 officer. The officers have not been charged, and Taylor's family says no drugs were ever found in the house. The police union has not returned requests for comment. Taylor's family thanking protesters, but begging for peace.
Please go home, be safe, and be ready to keep fighting.
No matter what's done, no matter how many protests, it keeps happening.
I can't breathe!
Gathering in the midst of a pandemic, protesters say they are now forced to fight a different virus, racism. Blaine Alexander, NBC News, Atlanta.
And also late today, protesters in San Jose, California made their way onto Highway 101, bringing the highway to a standstill. Traffic backed up, unable to move, a major situation that was developing there. And there are also protests growing in New York City. NBC's Ron Allen is there. Ron, what's the scheme?
Lester, a second day of protest, a We Can't Breathe rally here in New York, support for George Floyd out in Minneapolis, but also an echo of the Eric Garner case here. It's been 6 years since that incident hands of NYPD police. 6 years later, no one charged with any criminal breathe. Hands up, don't shoot. We've seen arrests here. There were 70 arrests last night in protests. A lot of energy, a lot of intensity, years of grievance here being vented on the streets of New York. Lester.
All right, Ron Allen in New York, thank you. We've been on the air now for just over 8 minutes.
Let's pause it right here.
The same length of time prosecutors say that officer had his knee on George Floyd's neck.
All right. So I'm moved from the stream. So family, thank you for sharing that, by the way. Kadi set that up, family. This is all the news. That's just a piece of it because it's running continuously nonstop. But you also have to be sure to take a break from that because it can wear on your psyche. It can wear on your emotional state, mental state. And also you need to be able to go back and assess what you're taking in, the language they're using, the images they're presenting, because it can be a detriment. Not to say that it is, but it could be an asset, but it could be a detriment depending on how you engage. I like the fact that the footage had the different cities, how they are responding to the violence of taking someone's life without just cause, with the brother George Floyd, with Ahmaud Arbery, and the sister, and I'm sorry, family, earlier, for Breonna Taylor, who lost their life when they shouldn't have. All right, there was no just cause for that through law enforcement, and it's a tragedy. It's been a tragedy. It is a tragedy, and it always will be a tragedy. And I'm saying things that, of course, people know and feel in their hearts. Those who do have heart for humanity and people in general, because unfortunately, family, there are some people out there when it comes to Black people, African people, that they do not see us in the same vein as other human beings. They see us as things. They see us as the quote unquote boogeyman or boogie woman, that any progression or any sense of livelihood is a threat to their being and their livelihood. And that's not the case. And it's just really, really sad that it takes this, as it's done countless other times, to get many people's attention, and that's just unfortunate. It really is. I don't know. You want to add anything that Kade? I mean, I could go on and on and on, but
I know we'll balance it out. Thank you for saying that, because it put a smile on my face.
Yeah.
It got me out of the train of thought that I was in, because it ties into how I felt this week, and you just reiterating what you saw in the news kind of welled me up inside. My mom always taught me, Jesus Christ and Him crucified, and who, now that I'm learning, variation name, the spiritual realm, is that all these things that are happening, are being allowed to happen from the higher being for a purpose. But with that said, let me say, with that said, it still pains my heart to witness this in this day and age. One of the things that I want to pick out that I still struggle with processing is in the beginning of the clip, and it frustrates me, man. How people are going to come away from that officer putting his knee on George Floyd's neck with the intent to harm him, to, in essence, try and kill him. If you look at that clip, that brief clip for that second, you can see the intent that he had in his face and the way he was maneuvering his knee on his neck to suffocate him, and doing it with impunity. And how people can come away from that image and not get that, and not see that, and not realize that. But how funny it is that if the roles were reversed, and if it was a Black man taking the same exact action on a white man in that position, they would see the same lens that we see coming from a black perspective. That's what frustrates me to no end.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say it enough. I can't repeat that example or that description enough.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, the other thing added to this is the protests. And one of the things that was said by the protests, I completely agree with. We were doing protests in the 60s.
Mm-hmm. Should before that.
Before that, there was that Time magazine cover
mm-hmm.
that shows protests of a black man running.
Mm-hmm.
The date of it was 1965
mm-hmm.
or 68.
Yeah.
Somewhere within there.
Right.
And then the Time cover crosses out 1965 and 68
mm-hmm.
and puts 2020
mm-hmm.
with the similar image of what we're going through.
Right.
So then you have to ask yourself, what do we really, truly, honestly expect from doing the same thing that we did back in 1965 and 68?
Mm-hmm.
There's this famous, I'll leave it up to you to give feedback on that, Cal, but there's this famous saying that says, that gives the definition of insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Mm-hmm.
The definition of insanity. So the question then leads to, are we as a populace, black and white, operating in insanity, thinking that protest is going to change something that it didn't change over 20 years ago in 1965 and 1968?
Mm-hmm.
And one final thing that just brought to my mind,
mm-hmm.
no disrespect to any other culture,
mm-hmm.
respect to Jews, whites, or what have you, who are standing up and protest with signs and stuff like that. Okay, fine. Thank you for doing something. Thank you. But question,
mm-hmm.
when the atrocities are done to your culture, do you stand up with picket signs? Or do you get the war and start coming after the powers that be, like those who are standing on the Capitol in certain states with AK-47s on their hip?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the action you take when your family, when this directs your culture and your family? Do you stand in front of the picket signs with signs up? Or do you carry a weapon and you make it known to the government what's going on? If this will not be accepted and we're not turning the other cheek, we're going to make sure to stop if we have to die for it. Are you taking the same action when it applies to your culture? That's the question. Those are the two questions I want to bring up and pose and bring into this conversation.
Mm. Man, whew. I mean to live in a society is to be partially insane anyway. I mean, like we all have the stench of racism, white supremacy all on us because society in America functions as such. I mean, I've seen countless, and I appreciate like my friends and my colleagues. You know, I've been posting a lot of like jewels as far as quotes and book references, and it's really been empowering because we're empowering each other through words and through our awareness. You know, when people say about spirituality, you know, versus religion in some forms, spirituality is an awakening. It's an awareness. You know, it's not just like, oh, everybody be peace. It's an awareness, and people are aware. People are aware right now. And when you talk about going back to your initial question with the insanity, again, we all live in insanity because we live in a system of white supremacy, and that in itself is defunct. It's dysfunctional because it's based on the ideology that if it's white, it's right. Like, doesn't matter if it is or if it isn't, as long as it benefits them, it's right. And when I mean by white, like Caucasian, right? European descent. So that question, you got to go back to the structure of how society is, how it is made up. And then on top of that, when we talk about the protesting this time is very different. If you've noticed on the news, you see a lot of folks who are not black that are out there protesting on the front lines, setting fire to buildings, throwing things, right? And it's not to say that black folks are not in those crowds, but a lot of major protesters seem like they're Caucasian. Buildings, throwing, right? So in reference of how we see it, some of them are protesters. Some of the Caucasians that are protesting are legitimate. They heed to the cause of humanity because they see that something is humanly not right, right? Their souls are not at rest. But then you have people out there who are provocateurs, as we've seen, that are breaking the windows, setting certain fires. And when I say this, family, I say this with due respect, that a lot of the protests that black folks have gotten into in the past, I'll say, 50 years, have we set fire to buildings? Sure, yes, we've done that, for sure. But when you set fire to certain places, that's typically not the typical actions of people in certain communities. Like setting fire to post offices, that's not typically something that a black person would tend to go for, right? Because why we set fire to a post office? What's the point in that? You know, they set fire to the precinct in Minneapolis. I was shocked at that. You know, I don't know who did the fire. I can't say because I'm not there. But I have friends who live in Minneapolis, and a lot of them are hurt. A lot of them, as they should be, because you got to think, Philando Castile got murdered on camera, just as the brother George Floyd got murdered on camera, right? Shot. I didn't watch that video, nor did I watch the George Floyd, which I'll go into later. But you have provocateurs, anarchists, people who are amongst the protesters who are doing certain things that's going against the initial plan or plan of action that they want to receive from doing these protests and resisting, because people want to say riots, right? And partially it may be true, but this is a rebellion. These are people that are rebelling. They are acting out. When you don't deal with your issues, as Kaidi and I have talked about before with guests we've had on here, when a nation or a person doesn't deal with their issues, what happens? It builds up, right? It builds up and people lash out, right? So this is people, whether you recognize or not, they're lashing out, saying enough is enough, right? Like we have reached our tipping point. We have reached our zenith of being able to kind of like, okay, you know, hopefully, you know, we're going to go to law enforcement or we're going to go to elected officials going to make this thing work. People are tired. People are fed up. People are exhausted. Yes, sir.
Weren't they this exalted back in 1965 and 68? Didn't we see the same thing take place back then? Didn't we see the same thing happen with you know, live and let live, or, you know, can we all just get along? What's his name? That riot that took place in LA in '96?
Yeah, Rodney King.
Didn't we see the same type of
unrest? Which was the largest civil unrest,
right?
Pre this.
Right.
Yeah.
So
right.
It's not like what's going on today is any new. I don't see, to a large extent, any different. I don't see it. What I do see is consistency in that it falls to a stereotype, whereas the powers that be are going to say, okay, first of all, I think it's under a whole larger agenda, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to stay on this point.
Okay.
What I think is going to happen, or God forbid, I don't want to put the words out there in the universe and stuff like that. I'm just going to take it from a historical reference point of view, or
right,
from an historical reference point of view.
Right. And what could happen?
What could happen, or what has been happening, that the powers that be, all the people that know psychology and how the human mind works, and the therapists and all that stuff, these think tanks, so to speak, got together and say, okay, yeah, we're hitting them with this, we're hitting them with this, and we're hitting them with this. Here's our plan. It's chess, not checkers.
Right.
Yes. Okay, if they take it to a larger extent, then what we'll have to do, we'll have no other choice but to bring in martial law. Give us validation for annihilating a certain populace, which we had planned on annihilating anyway, but now we have the license to do so because it's affecting the populace at large. So if we have to kill a few for the sake of many, this gives us a license to do so. So if they do take this situation, which is why we're pumping it out like that, which is why we haven't stopped the police in these certain situations. We know people who have smartphones and they're going to record it. We know the result is going to be an uproar in society and people are going to react to it. Good. Let them react to that extent. Whereas now we have a legal right to exterminate and fall right in line with the Bill Gates depopulation agenda. That's one scenario.
Okay.
That scenario doesn't work out to those who are above the fray, so to speak, who are orchestrating this other thing. Then the other thing is going to be, we go back to how it was before, where they're going to do protests like they did in Ferguson for about a few weeks, and then it's going to die down, and everything is going to go back to normal, and we're going to still have the killings that we've been having all along before, and probably initiate more stricter methods, whereas now we're going to take the right away for those to have cameras and film. We already have cops with films on their chests. That's enough. We'll persecute and deal with the cops who turn the camera off, but the cameras on the cops' chest is enough. We don't need civilians filming these atrocities to cause another uproar that's been happening that has been costing the city money. So just look at it from scenario 2, where they'll get tired, go back to their homes because they're tired of doing all this other stuff, and we'll go back to normal, annihilating certain populace little by little like we've been doing, and allow COVID to take care of the rest when the second wave of COVID comes in the fall.
Looks like COVID is not doing anything right now.
No. But that was already designed because they knew when the weather got warmer, it would be a decline. And then when the weather gets colder, it's going to be an incline because they have no vaccine that they can legally put out that's effective, won't be ready for another 12 months to 18 months, a year and a half.
Right. And that's a whole nother thing with vaccines and being vaccinated and, you know, certain vaccines, because not all vaccines are bad. So I don't want to get into that blanket statement. But no, all those scenarios you mentioned could possibly happen. And those situations, some of those situations even happened during the 60s, which was some of the most turbulent times in American history from 1960 to 1969. So, you know, these things could happen, you know, but again, you know, it's a tough thing, man, because not everybody's meant to be on the front lines protesting. Not everybody's meant to be, you know, marching down the streets. Not to say that's not a good thing, but everybody plays their position, man. And that's one thing I learned doing grassroots organizing, you know, like everybody plays their position. Not everybody in the civil rights movement was out there marching. There was some people that were handing out the flyers. There were some people who were organizing events. There were some people that were just making sure that people they were out there, but they made sure people stay safe as possible or stay from getting assaulted. You know, there were people that were doing certain things that don't get the credibility. You know, it takes what a public enemy say. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back. The fact that they're doing all this stuff shows you the power that we have within, if we just harness it and recognize it and work amongst each other. You know, I was talking with a colleague of mine, and we were talking about like businesses and like entrepreneurship and economics, right? Like, and they had mentioned about like, you know, they burning down like the businesses and the community and you know, certain businesses like a Popeyes or like banks and certain forth. And I'm like, well, you have to think about it, that depending on who set it off, depending on who set the fires, and depending on what the purpose of those establishments serve to the community, discerns whether it gets treated with hatred, or like as a part of the system, or it's like absolved, like, oh no, don't mess with that. Don't mess with that over there. Like that's we use that, you know. Remember we talked about before in our podcast, neighborhoods versus communities. We live in neighborhoods. We don't live in communities anymore. Rarely. There are very few communities. Communities are commune, right? Communities come from family, right? When you have, and it's not all our fault either. When I'm saying these things, family, I'm saying it's systemic, right? Meaning that I'm not blaming anyone, not any of us. Now, do we have a part to play? Sure. But there are things that systemically they have set up for us to react in certain ways and to create certain scenarios where we're at a disadvantage. That's what I'm saying, right? So when they burned down a Popeyes, I'm like, well, did that Popeye serve the community properly? Because personally, is trash. You know what I'm saying? Like Popeyes is, I don't care if you can season up however you want, Popeyes is trash. And I said it. And if you want to debate me on that, go look it up on the website and look how many chemicals they pump in that chicken. Just saying. Now, does it serve a purpose because people have jobs? Yeah, sure, I understand that. But as far as our total health, especially as far as fighting COVID, it's trash. It's trash. I'm just here to tell you that. Like, if you ask me, it's trash. You know what I'm saying? McDonald's is trash. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just real. I'm just being real with you. So when we talk about these things in reference of how we engage and how we inform ourselves and how we empower ourselves, we need to look within. We need to look within our circle. We don't need to boycott anything. I know T.I., put out the boycott, and respect the brother T.I. He put out like the 1 day boycott or whatnot. And 1 day is cool, but you don't have to boycott if you got your own. Think about that. You ain't got to boycott no one if you have your own. Nice. That's where I want us to get at. That's why I'm trying to push us and trying to push myself into. We don't got to boycott anyone if we already have it. I don't have to boycott a bank if we got our own bank. I don't have to boycott a food establishment if we have our own food establishment, because we're already empowering ourselves through recycling the dollar, recycling the energy that money and that currency and that fiat brings. That's why I want to be at. That's why a lot of our brothers and sisters in the 60s, they were moving towards that. But what happened? They broke up the family. Early 1970s, late 1960s, early 1970s, they sent out the government order of the welfare. You see what I'm saying? If you do your history and do the knowledge, there's a lot of layers to this. Very much so. And Cody, what you said, man, it's on point. When is enough enough? And then when we talk about risk involved, there's always going to be a risk involved. We're Black in America. There's always a risk every single day. As a Black man, as an African American, an African in America, every time I step outside, there's a risk. Right. Every time my brother, my father, my cousins, men and women and children might add you, there's always a risk. Now, do I want to put myself in harm's way? No, of course not. Right. Of course I don't want to do that. Right. But James Baldwin said to be Black in America is to be angry almost all the time. Conscious. Black and conscious in America. And conscious. And he also stated that to fight racism is to put your life at danger. Yeah. Those who practice white supremacy and racism, they don't have that problem because it's a self-perpetuating system. So even if they die or even if they're not pulling the strings themselves, it's already working. It's self-perpetuating. Whereas I or Kaide or someone else or other people have to put their lives literally on the line to be able to fight racism. Think about that. Just as having this conversation. You brought up some very good. Yeah, just as having this conversation. I'm not even marching in the streets. We're not even marching in the streets. But just having this conversation is a threat to that system. If you want to learn more read Dr. Neely Fuller. Look up Dr. Neely Fuller. There's some homework for us. Dr. Neely Fuller. Look up that and see what he says about racism and white supremacy. And holla at us. I mean, the information is there, is what I'm saying. It's there. If you do the research, it's been there. Oh man, you brought up some good point. Okay, so here's two things today. You're right on with that, Kyle. We don't have to boycott anything if we have our own. That's awesome. We don't have to boycott a bank if we have our own bank. Oh, that's fantastic. I think that perception, that viewpoint adds to the many other ways to go about this. So I definitely, props to you. So with that said, I guess where I'm coming from is from the vantage point of, to an extent, a reality check, right? So it would be ideal if we as a community, a culture, part of that checklist would be to build a community. Right. Which ties into what you're saying, and building that community, we can then build our banks. We can then build our stores. We can then do that. I think if we think about it and break it down, if we focus more of our energies towards
that approach in building for ourselves and stop spending money on these companies and in these environments that don't really care for us, and start instead following the We Buy Black and investing in our own. That includes building up banks and coming together with those who have the experience in how to build a bank and necessary paperwork and stuff like that. Then we, by cause of result, would not have to consider putting ourselves on the front line. That wouldn't be an issue because we would have our own, to the extent that even though we're building our own, always be mindful of what took place in Black Wall Street.
Definitely.
Right? Being at the ready, being the Panthers, so to speak, right? Whereas we can defend ourselves against the injustice that is dead bent on destroying what we build so we don't have to depend on, right? Which then puts us in a situation where we have no other choice and then have to be on the front lines and battle this thing like we're doing now because we already did the Black Wall Street. Had that been allowed to continue, we would have been what you're talking about, where you're talking about right now, where we wouldn't have to concern ourselves with boycotting. But
and there were multiple ones too. There was one, not just the one in Tulsa, there was one in North Carolina and somewhere else as well.
Exactly. And like you said, also, you pointed out, I lost my train of thought, but like you pointed out, like you pointed out, how it's systematic, right? Where I didn't even know, you taught me. Whereas when we started moving along those lines and building ourselves, they systematically, strategically brought in welfare. That purposely break up the most powerful thing that you said, which is the family.
Right. The most revolutionary thing you can do is raise a Black family.
Right.
That's one of the most, if not the most, one of the most revolutionary things you do. Why? Because you pass on the heritage, you pass on the culture, you pass on the wealth of previous generations. You know.
So with that said, Cal, bringing it full circle, I think we have to work simultaneously with investing in our own. That we do already. We did that before.
Right.
But now
we're doing it now. We're doing it
now. But this time with the acute awareness of what happened in the past to make sure it doesn't happen again, which is the terrorist attack that took place on Black Wall Street, to be prepared for that now, more so than we were back then, one. And then number two, delicately touch on the situation, whereas, just say, for example, and just keep it real. If you have a segment of those who approach this from the nonviolent area, I don't know, I'm just putting this out there, and then something happens to someone they love. I mean, not a group, not just a family, but I'm talking about someone that they, like a mom, for example. Right? A child who has a personal relationship with their parents, be it their mother, their father, or both, that they confide in, who's been their support system all their life, the only person that they love wholeheartedly, and then have them die in the unjust manner that the deaths have occurred today. Now, I wonder if that approach would be the same as in comparison to Europeans or whites, whereas the atrocities that happen to us as a culture, their viewpoint on it is, this is wrong, this is an atrocity, this shouldn't happen, and speak up that way. That's to the extent that they contribute, right? Because it happens to a culture that is not theirs. But then have it turn around, like the COVID took place, and people had to wear masks, and they thought it was slavery. And they, without importunity, resist the mandate that came down from the government to do social distancing and stay quarantined in the house.
Right.
My reaction to that is, excuse my language, fuck that. I'm going outside. I'm going in the park. I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't care what you say. You're not holding me in slavery.
Mm-hmm.
So now turn it around, bringing it back to that scenario where we want on taking the nonviolent approach. All of a sudden, our family member that we care for so much dies in an atrocity act like that. Would we still have the capacity or the restraint to still approach this atrocity that happened to us and our home directly on the front door? Will we still have the mental, physical, spiritual capacity, physical capacity to restrain ourselves and still take that nonviolent approach now that it hit us in the home directly?
Right. And that's the battle that a lot of people face, man. Yeah, that's a good one, man. Because, you know, we're asking to be nonviolent against those people who are violent against us. And I think people have to realize when Dr. King did the strategy, it was a strategy of nonviolence. It was to show the ineptitude and the violence of our aggressors. It was to show how aggressive they were against us as Black people here in this country, as African people in this country. And it was a tactic. And luckily, and you know what was one of the best things was TV, was the camera. He used the camera, him and his team used the camera to say, hey, look, you all, we're being as nonviolent as we can, peaceful protests as we possibly can, and they're still being heavily aggressive with us and violent against us. We're not getting in the face. We're not throwing stuff on them. We're not fighting them. We're literally just saying our piece. But look how aggressive they are against us. And that was a tactic that he used to get Kennedy to say, okay, man, we got to do something, man, because this is making us look bad, right? This is making us look bad. And now you have everybody has a portable camera with their phones, and then they're still filming it. But as you see with Philando Castile, with Ahmaud Arbery, when they use it against him, of course, and George Floyd, he looked right in the camera and said, what? Like, so you got a camera, so what? I'm in control. That is nothing but pure hatred, right? That is a mentality that is so absolved from humanity.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that, like we showed the clip with Toni Morrison. You know, our morality was never in question.
Right. Oh,
I mean, Black folks, our humanity was never in question, right? The problem is you got a problem. Because you got a problem, we got a problem, right? So, you know, people only gonna be peaceful for so long. What you see, as you see what's happening, right? And this ain't again. Let me go back to what's happening right now. A lot of protesters aren't even Black folk. A lot of protesters are people who are not Black, African American. So that shows you on another level that it must have, excuse my language, shit must have really hit the fan, because it's not even mostly us out there. It's other ethnicities. So apparently they see, at least they have some bit of humanity and emotion, because I would be scared more so if people didn't show emotion, because that shows that there's some nugget of humanity still left in them to say this is not right. This is foul on many levels.
Pretty good.
So lucky, and again, when I say you, I'm talking about the system and law enforcement at large. They are lucky that it's just buildings that are burning. That's unfortunate. It's mostly buildings that are burning, which I don't think people have really thought about that. They're out of all the anger and hurt that people are feeling, there are only buildings that would be burning right now. If you go to other countries, there's other things that people can burn. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen video, man, it's horrific. But they're just property right now. People, man, oh man. I was talking to one of my friends, man. People gotta go back and watch Do the Right Thing, man. Like, people gotta go back and watch that film, bro. Like, Do the Right Thing, man, is so deep on so many levels, man. Because when Spike showed the movie in France, right? When Spike, this is a little film history for your family that ties into to what's going on now. Spike showed the film in France, and he said a lot of people came up to him in France when he showed the film in France. I don't know why it's Cannes or Cannes Film Festival. People like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Mookie did that. Or I can't believe, they burned down Sal's Pizzeria. Fuck Sal's Pizzeria. A man just got killed by the cops by just playing his radio loud. A building can, like he said, a building can get burned. A building get burned and you can build it back. Radio Raheem is dead.
Yeah, you can't get him.
I can't get a life back.
Can't get a life back.
Ahmaud Arbery can't get his life back.
Right.
Breonna Taylor can't get her life back.
Right.
George Floyd can't get his life back. Right. Eric Garner can't get his life back. Emmett Till can't get his life back. Right. Dr. King can't get his life back. Malcolm X can't get his life back.
Damn.
Should I go on? Should I go on? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is historical. So if they're burning a Popeyes, a Target, those are corporate structures that, again, I'm a business owner, so I understand. I'm not saying that it doesn't have any wherewithal so far, but in comparison to what has happened, the injustices and the murder of these people, I could give a damn about a building. If it's about my brother and sister's life versus the building, hey, we can build that building back. As damaging as it might be, we can build that back. We can't build that person back. That person has left this world. And that's what people are trying to say. Listen, right? Listen to us. Because it will come on your door. Listen, please. Like, this is they're saying, listen, pay attention, do something about this.
The reality of it is, and it's been brought out before, that no one cared about the crack epidemic, all right? Or the powers that be didn't care about the crack epidemic.
That's another war on our community, the crack epidemic. That's another war, another chemical warfare that they exalted on our community to commit genocide. And when I talk about genocide, go ask the UN what I'm talking about, right? When we talk about the chemical warfare has been on our community for years, right? The physical, chemical, and maybe some people say spiritual warfare that has been on our community. But I digress. I'm sorry, man.
That's the point I was getting to. Everybody turned a blind eye, and then Dave Chappelle, he brought it full front in his comedy, right? Right? Just get along. What? No, he said, just say no. Just say no, right? Right? So what about just saying no to now the whole drug epidemic that's hitting the white communities now? Now it's an issue now. Before it wasn't an issue. Before it wasn't a pandemic.
Right.
Before it was isolated to a certain community and their weakness towards discipline, their lack of discipline. Now it's hitting your community. I don't hear the same argument being said now. Lack of discipline for those in your community. Now it's a pandemic. Now it's an issue.
Right. Where's the compassion? Where's the compassion for us? Where was it? Because I mean, we had it for ourselves, but where's the outside compassion?
Right. So, bruh. Okay. So, go ahead, Cal. Before we go transition, man, to the next one.
No, man. It's a lot, man. I mean, man, shout out to my people, man, in Minnesota, Memphis, Louisville, Chicago, LA, Houston, Dallas, Nashville. Shout out, man. Like, because I'm with y'all, solidarity all the way, 100%. And this is also a time for us to organize, like really thoroughly organize and really hone in on what our skills and our assets are to each other, and exploit the fact that again, who's going to look out for our best interests? We are.
Right. Very good.
We're going to look out for our best interests.
Very good.
Right. If you're expecting someone else outside of us to look out for our best interests better than us, it's not going to happen. It's just not. And for my young folk out there, let this be a lesson to you. You're living in history right now. This is an opportunity for you to reset. This is the opportunity to help get some of your elders on track. Because some of us have fallen off the track and forgotten, or had, I'll say, amnesia, right? This is an opportunity for you all to say, hey, we still catching hell out here. Right? Y'all caught hell in the 60s and the 50s and the 30s and the 40s and the 20s and the 10s and the 1890s and the 80s.
This ain't the start of the country, brothers.
Yeah, we still catching it. Right?
Since we landed on Plymouth Rock, or as Malcolm X said, Plymouth Rock landed on us.
Yes, right? Exactly. Right? Plymouth Rock landed on us, right? Plymouth Rock landed on the Native Americans, on the indigenous people in this country. You know? One of my boys posted, rebellion and looting, right? Rebellion and looting is an American as apple pie, right? So when we talk about, the problem with looting and rioting, y'all, that's how y'all develop the country. You know what I'm saying? So let's call a spade a spade.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
Again, when you know your history and you know your position, these things as damaging and as hurt and as saddened as I am, I know this isn't new, right? And a lot of my peers know this isn't new. It's just how are we going to respond from here, or how have we been responding leading up to this? Kaide and I and a lot of my brothers and sisters who are in the educational and entrepreneurial space, we've been doing the work, and the work is still being done. And you have to support these people out, family, who are out there doing that work. The healers, the entrepreneurs, the martial artists, the educators, the medical physicians. They've been, like the people who are literally building the buildings with their hands, the blue collar worker. Like, these people are doing the work, whether you know it or not. And we have to support them, because if we don't, then we wonder, like, where's the community? Where's
No. If you don't, it's a high likelihood or high percentage that it's going to come at you at your front door and affect you or your family members directly.
Yeah, man.
So you can hide all you want. Like they say, there's no place to hide. So you either deal with it now or you're going to deal with it later.
Right. Exactly.
Ask the white folks. They thought they could put it under the rug and leave it within the community. And now look, it's staring them right in the face. They dealing with it directly with their loved ones.
Man, voice of the voiceless, man. Voice of the voiceless. Rioting or rebellion is the voice of the voiceless, man.
And let me say this one other thing, Cal. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm going to make this clear because I want to make sure I'm understood. Like you
understood.
Understood, right? Like
understand.
Family, like Kyle said, and I get it because my mom was like this too. If you're not cut out, if it's not in you, if you're not led to be in battle or be on the front line, that's not for you. Don't feel because what's going on, you have to put yourself, because you have to put yourself out there and fight, because what you're doing is you're being ineffective,
right?
And you're causing more of a problem than a solution, because you're not made for it. You're not cut for that. So if you're not cut for that to be on the front, that's not you. But if you have a knack to communicate, if you have a knack to relate to people, if you have a knack to phrase things where people can understand, then that's where you fight. That's your fight right there. Then you build circles where you can communicate effectively what's going on the front lines. That's your calling. If your calling is math, then that's your calling to be able to collect funds and finances to support the movement, to leverage this to make the world a better place. If you're good with numbers and you're good with financial management, then that's your calling. It makes no sense for you to be on the front line where you stand a chance of being killed when your skill was better used in the administration aspect of it, where you can help direct and manage the finances to make the movement that much more popular. If your area is history and you like reading and you collect information, then that's what you use. And you collect the information to give to those in the administration department, to give to those on the front line, to better leverage their effectiveness in putting an end to this. So I'm saying all that, and I can give examples upon examples upon examples, but just picking up on Kyle's point, we're not saying that everybody's got to be on the front line and fight.
Right, that's not where everybody's at. Should be at.
That's for those who are called. who have an ability to that, whose spirit is burning, where that's their calling. That's what they do. That's who's supposed to be there, which also ties into the community we're talking about, Kyle, when we build the Black Wall Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those who are built for the front line are those who are on the front line to protect the Black Wall Street, to protect the infrastructure from being destroyed. That's how we organize effectively, to put those in their right positions to do the most job effectively, because there's a place for everything and everything is in its place. If you ever heard it before, I'm not
definitely,
sure.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah, definitely. I haven't heard that in a while.
But that's what it comes down to. Each and every one of us have a specific place. We play a specific role. And the job is to identify what that specific role is so we can take our right place. So that way we can be more effective in progressing this thing forward and getting rid of, as best we can, as most we can, the racism and the illness and the sickness that's affecting this country, the United States of America, so everybody can live and let live.
Right, man. You said it perfectly, brother. It's not either or, it's both. And I think Dr. Neely Fuller talked about that in his book. He said that, if you experience racism, it's not to say like your racism is bigger or lesser than mine. This is all true. It's all true. Whether it's racism against a Black woman, African-American woman, or African-American man, is not to say, well, they treat me like this office. Well, they treat me like this in the office. It's like, okay, this isn't the racism Olympics. You know what I'm saying? Like this, we all are getting discriminated against, and it's all valid. It's all valid. It comes out in different ways. It's all valid. So for me to lessen yours is to be different as well. But again, it's not to focus on it. It's to say, okay, now how do we come together and make that situation, either eradicate that situation or lessen that situation to the best of our ability? How do we do that together? You know what I'm saying? And that's what we have to get to. This is a time for us to really corral with each other, especially during COVID. We have nothing but time. We have nothing but time during COVID. We should be strategizing, planning, so we fully come out of this thing with that much more engaged, with that much more informed and empowered with each other. Again, we're doing Great Rising Collective, not just to talk and just to run our mouths, just to empower us, to help give you something to go and study and review and use to empower you. As Kaide and I mentioned, as he mentioned earlier, we are educators. There's a difference between an educator and a teacher. I teach. We educate. Right? There's a difference. People don't know the difference. To educate, right? To teach is just for us to have the lesson at hand and just to regurgitate. That's teaching, which is valid because we do that. That is a skill. Educator is a profession. It is a calling. It is engaging and assessing and analysis and a listening to the people that you are engaging with to better serve them. It is a service to the community to be an educator, right? So when we come to these platforms, we want to be able to help empower you all with the information that we have came across, and also you all empower us with your responses and what experiences you have had. And what the brother is sharing is spot on. He's spot on. So again, family, it's not either or, it's both, right? And as tragic as the situation is, if it doesn't bring us closer together, then the tragedy is in that this brother and these sisters have lost their lives in vain if we haven't come together and made a tighter unit, able to fight this real virus, as the lady mentioned in the clip we played earlier, of racism, white supremacy.
Yo, education and educator and a teacher, two different things. Powerful, brother. All right.
They're related, but they're different.
We are at the hour, actually 5 minutes after. You know how we do.
Yeah, but we're going over. Yeah, we're going over today.
We're going to go. We're going to go over. What we just touched on was the atrocity that has taken place, or the attack, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
on black lives from authority figures. These are police officers, in large, whose job was and is to serve and protect.
Mm-hmm.
There's another video, Kyle, that I should have queued up, but I didn't.
Yeah.
In regards to, I think I shared it with you. I shared you the link with the officer who admitted that what he's seeing now, what he thought was isolated incidences,
Oh yes.
right, with bad cops, and that's just dumb or what have you. He's starting to see now it's becoming more proliferated, right? If I use the right word. And he called them out. And this officer, law enforcement professional that called him out, lost his job by telling the truth. And now, from what I hear, they're doing like they're looking at it more. I think it was suggested by one of the people on the social media lines where, this lady, I didn't share this with you, but I did like it on my Facebook platform, this white woman. And my heart goes out in appreciation to those who are not black. And I'm gonna put it out there, this white woman, I appreciate her for her honesty and for her courage. Because she brought this suggestion out where she said, and I've never heard this from a white person before.
Okay.
And it was powerful. She said law enforcement officers should be held to a higher standard. Whereas if they do this atrocity, they should, as a result, not only be arrested, but they should also serve a life sentence, if not death.
Wow.
Because of their role. They have been specifically trained in how to deal with situations as it relates to civilians.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in mass. So it's not like they're dealing as a one-to-one situation, the way the system is set up, where it's one cop against one civilian. They operate in mass, where it's always designed with a one civilian against a group of law enforcement professionals. As you saw with Floyd, where there were 4 officers there to restrain one man. If you have that much backing, there should be no excuse or reason for you to take a civilian's life, especially when you've been trained not to.
Or maybe trained to.
Hold on. That cannot be admitted. That's not on the record books. We can't say that. That's not according to the guidelines. That's not legal. Right? So we know, but according to policy, taking another civilian's life is not acceptable unless that civilian causes harm or presents that threat, whereas that civilian is carrying a weapon enough to annihilate or do harm to law enforcement professionals who are designed to serve and protect. So they would have to be in the role of serving and protecting. And in that action of serving and protecting, the civilian is literally taking out an armed weapon to try and do harm to those officers who are supposed to serve and protect. Under those circumstances, is that law enforcement professional allowed to exhort to extenuating means or extensive means as to not just protect themselves, but to protect the public at large? That's the only reason why an officer is allowed to use force like that on a civilian, because it's affecting the populace at large, not necessarily them. Because their job, part of their job, and the risk, a part of their job that they sign on is the loss of life. They sign on to become a police officer. They willingly admit that they are at risk of losing their life. That's a part of the job. So even if a civilian is taking a gun out and he's willing, is not the officers is not there to protect their own lives. They have to subdue that civilian because of the threat that that civilian may have to the populace, the lives that don't include them. Wanted to leave that there.
Let me add on briefly to what you said, brother, because that was definitely on point. I saw this footage, and you may have seen it already, family, about this African American brother who's a police officer in Atlanta. I think his Officer Murphy was his last name, and he was talking to the crowd at this, I think, the CNN building in Atlanta, and people are, they're upset, and but he's talking to them like, hey, he said he has a son who's 31 and a son who's 15, and he said, I tell him about the police as well. I tell them about the police, like how to engage and whatnot. So I have these talks. I'm a police officer, and I'm having these talks with my sons. So that shows you, man. That shows you the dichotomy and the double consciousness, as W.B. Du Bois talked about in The Souls of Black Folks. See what I'm saying? And that was 1903. Like the double consciousness, what they call cultural schizophrenia, right? Cultural schizophrenia. Yeah, man. Yeah, the cultural schizophrenia, man. Like, even him as a black officer has to talk to his sons about dealing with other police officers. That's nuts, man. That's crazy. Like think of a system, y'all. Think of a system that promotes that where that flourishes. Like, again, man, I have these talks. I was talking, because I talk and I engage, family. I was having a talk with one of my peers a week ago, and I'm like, what type of system does it take in order to create these type of environments, man? You know what I'm saying? Like homelessness, police brutality. What type of system promotes that type of behavior? What type of society promotes that type of behavior?
It's the society
that
permits that type of system.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. And that shows you that shows you where the root. What Angela Davis, I wrote the quote down too. Quote by Angela Davis. I'm gonna put it up in the chat too. It says, radically simply means grasping things at the root. Radical simply means grabbing things at the root.
Gotcha.
Right? That's radical. The fact that someone is radical, that means they're just going to the root of the cause. That's seen as radical. That's seen as radical, right?
Nice.
That's the elder Angela Davis for you, man. Like, I mean, again, man, family, the info is out there, the knowledge and the action. Because see, here's the thing, right? A lot of people are like, yeah, we should go out and we should do this and do that and be on the front lines, and that's cool. But the truly sexy thing is, get your people together, organize, empower yourselves. When you don't have to help anybody else. But that's not sexy though.
Yeah,
that's not sexy. That's not sexy to eat right. You know what I'm saying? Get your mind together, organize with your people, and create something where you don't have to depend on other people and systems to do it for you, right? But they push that away. You know what I'm saying? They push away meditation. They push away eating right. Oh, they push away going back to nature. That can't be a solution. But these are solutions. These are solutions.
Yeah, I'm leaving. There's something. All right, I'm leaving. I'll talk to you offline about that.
Yeah,
yeah. Whoa, okay. So we're going to transition. Before we transition, we want to recap real quick. Tangibles and solutions. All right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we'll hit it both sides or what have you. I'll talk about tangible and solutions as it relates to law enforcement. Right. So in regards to law enforcement, some tangibles and solutions would be, I would say, to whether you realize it or not, the Constitution. I have and it's real. All right. You can't be lazy now. I mean, you can be lazy if you want to, but then these are the consequences that you're going to face, right? If you're upset, part of this week has been very tough for me. I can only speak for me, but it's been very tough for me because it weighed on my soul. It weighed on my spirit. It weighed on my consciousness because of the needless attack and the loss of life of these individuals in a world like this that baffles my mind, and it affected me, right? So I'm just saying that, just say that you choose to put it aside since it's not on your front step. You ain't got to deal with it, but it's at your own cost. So with that said, it's in your best interest to read the Constitution, because the Constitution, although it's just paper and they don't admit to it, but the fact that you know that will carry a lot of weight when and if it comes down to the point where it takes you to the legalities of what's going on. And there are other people who want to say, you know what's going on. You can articulate yourself very carefully, and it'll help you in the long run if you get to that point of legalities in the courts and stuff like that. It'll definitely carry it, and it'll give your attorney or whoever you have representing you some ammo which to use, because once you're conscious of the Constitution, then you know how to act when confronted with situations. That way you won't be doing yourself a disjustice where they'll have something to hold against you, which will negate your whole defense. You won't have anything to defend on, because your actions they will use to warrant the behavior or the treatment that they gave you. So when you know your constitutional rights, you then protect yourself and you arm yourself against those things. So know the Constitution. The other benefit to that, know your rights, is there are many cops and officers who adhere to the Constitution. So if you're able to, in that situation, articulate yourself and contain your emotion as best you can in order to get some of those words out that's in the Constitution as it relates to the rights with law enforcement, there are a lot of officers that will hold back.
Right, speaking that in the signs in the background.
Right, exactly. The signs in the
background. Yeah,
because that it's spiritual. They know. So that's what I'm saying. They know it's timing. Brother. Nothing by happenstance. It's all. It ain't no coincidence. It's this. Everything that happens for a reason. So there have been proven cases where there has been someone who's been approached by cops, not in their right, but they knew their rights. They knew it according to the Constitution, and you'd be surprised how the police officers act. I'm not talking about one police officer, Kyle, family. I'm talking about there were 4 officers. There are videos of this on YouTube where the police officer, because the person was standing there and they knew their rights, and they spoke their rights to the officers, it paralyzed the officers because they explained themselves articulately first. The words coming out their mouth wasn't, fuck this, man. Yo, leave me alone. Get out of here. Get the fuck away from me. It wasn't none of that. It was, according to the Constitution, because
some of them don't know it. Or like you said, they know enough of it. Like, okay, like that. They know the power. They know those words. They know that law.
There you go, Kyle. It works. It works. It paralyzes them. It paralyzes them. And then if they go so far, you have a constitutional right. And then I'm gonna give it over to you, Kyle, because I know you got a lot you want to add. But these are things we're giving you. And then if the officers are so ignorant or so caught up in their emotions, or they had a bad day and they're trying to take it on you, you have a constitutional right to ask for the officer's supervisor. Get their supervisor on record. They have to call. If they're not the supervisor, they have to call their supervisor and bring their supervisor in. Changes the whole dynamic because the supervisor is holding to another account. Get some trust. Then there was a situation, real talk, it just happened, I just saw it on the feed. An officer who was trying to arrest this civilian, claiming he fixed the description. Had the acuity enough, right? Because his wife or girlfriend was filming it.
Wow.
Had the acuity enough to say, had the acuity enough to ask, well, let me see a picture. He wasn't even speaking the Constitution, Kyle. He was just standing his ground saying it's right. He asked, well, let me see a picture of the description you say that I fit. Listen to this. Tangibles and solutions, action steps. Had the right to ask, let me see the picture of who you're claiming I fit the description of. Constitutionally, you had to. You even have a right not to show your ID. You have a constitution right not to do that unless they have some right to call you over. So the cop had another cop pull up, go to his car, get his phone, the description on the phone, bring it to the officer showed the civilian, and the civilian and the officer looked at it and said, "That's not me. That doesn't even look like me." It was filmed, and guess what? Guess what the two officers ended up doing in response?
What?
Letting him go.
There it is.
Walked away. And the civilian, the black brother with braids, was so frustrated and angry because had he not gone to that extent, they would have had him in the car, locked up, and took him down to the precinct. So they started walking off, and the black brother was so frustrated. He said, "Oh, so where y'all going now? Why y'all walking away? You was just about to arrest me. Why are you walking away?" But because he had the sensory and the acuity to go that far, think about that. The police officer was dead set on arresting him, wasn't letting him go, said that he fit the description. That was his reason for arresting that civilian. Once they got the picture of the person that they said he fit the description, once the civilian and the officer looked at the picture and it was confirmed that the guy did not fit the description, they had no other choice but to let the guy go. In part also because it was being filmed and the officer had no legal right to detain the civilian because he did not fit the description. So these are the tangibles that I'm giving you as you interface with law enforcement officers. Know your constitution. Know your rights. If you can spit and speak and articulate your rights, you paralyze the officer. Step one, the officers. That's step one. Step two, if the officers are not their supervisor, you have a legal right to ask for the officers to call their supervisor to the scene. You have a legal right to do it, which they have to abide by. That's step two.
Yep.
Step three, if the officer is a supervisor and they claim that you fit a description, you have a legal right to ask, well, let me see the picture of that description that you claim I so-called filled. They have to show you the picture in your face, and watching that picture, you can validate that that's not you. They have no other legal rights to detain you. They have to let you go. Steps 1, steps 2, and steps 3. Those are your tangible steps, your action steps as it relates to law enforcement, and your right as a civilian. Those are my tangibles and action steps, Cal. You have anything to add to that?
Thorough, not thorough, man. Not too much thorough, family. Like, I mean, that's the type of work I did back in the day in Chicago, talking to folks on the street, because we can't be afraid of our own people, man. That's one thing. We can't be afraid of our own neighborhoods and our own people, especially if we're coming with tangible advice and information to help keep them alive and help them to flourish. We can't be scared of that. Now, when you come in, if you coming on some nonsense and you're trying to scam the folks, then you have cause for concern because somebody's going to find out and it's not going to be pretty. But if you're coming to really benefit the people and give them something that they can use tangibly to help them to survive and their families to flourish, then by all means, you know what I'm saying? It still may be a struggle, but it's not going to be something where you feel like, oh, like I'm going to be a target. No, you know, you're going to be an asset and they're going to see that eventually, right? Now, even if it's not right away, they will eventually see because if you continue to do it. So I posted and we posted some links on the chart on the chat here at the bottom, like the Know Your Rights as a protester, know your rights when police officers approach you, because as Kaidi said, it's very important. You have to know that, because in order to empower yourself and not get caught up out there, as they say, caught up, you know, you got to know your rights. You got to know where you stand, what your true power is as a citizen. Because if you don't, they'll just rally you. They'll just corral you and say, okay, like you say, you fit the description. Okay, jump in the squad car. You know, where you been? Where you going? Blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, I don't have to answer that. Now, I will say this, you know, and I've talked to other law enforcement, you know, those folks who are in law enforcement have some bit of humanity still in them and don't have that white racist mentality, because those cops and police officers that were with, was it Chauvin? The guy Chauvin, that put the neck on, George Floyd, you know, they were complicit. They have that white they have gotten brainwashed into that white mentality, because if they were any bit of officers with humanity, they're like, okay, man, let's ease up. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we already got them constrained, ease up. And then again, we talked about in the news how they probably knew each other. They worked at the same nightclub. So there's no way that they didn't know of each other, right? Somehow, some way, you know, they worked there for that amount of time. Even if he made like you look familiar, like something. So that's another layer to the story that has yet to develop. That will come in time. But yeah, family, everything Kylie just said, go back, rewind it. You know what I'm saying? Like for real, because it's legitimate info that you can use. And again, use the links that we put up here. Look into those because those are valid as well. You know, so speaking to you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and again, this ain't about fear. This isn't about fear. You know, you shouldn't fear them, right? You should respect because they should respect you. There's no fear here.
Right.
You know, fill your life with faith. You know what I'm saying? Fill your life with hope, not fear. You know what I'm saying? It's not about fear. It's about recognizing who you have in front of you and saying, here are my rights.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All right. So, man, we digging in. We dropping some stuff.
Yeah, man.
This next video, we touched on, again, like I mentioned before, the attack from law enforcement who are in the positions to serve and protect.
Real quick. Okay. I'm sorry to cut you off. But no, also family, you know, again, what happened in Central Park with the lady Amy Cooper, who was trying to get my man, you know.
I'm about to go into that.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, so yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We're talking civilians now. With
oh yeah. Because I was like, they gotta get this smoke too.
So make a note. We're about to get into civilians. All right. So the next video I got to set it up. The next video I'm going to show, Cal is not going to be present. He's going to be around, but he's not going to be present because this video in particular has a significant impact on him, which he'll elaborate on after the video. But it's important that I show this video for you who are viewing, supporters, for context and what we're about to talk about. And this is going to tie into just the attack that we have to deal with from civilians. So right now I'm going to start the clip, Kyle, and then after I show it, you have context already, and then we'll elaborate further on the impact of that we have to deal with. So I'm setting myself up now so you know what's going on. I'll get you the text, and then make sure you have your phone and you're ready to get the text. But I'm about to share that right now. Okay. All right, I apologize for the confusion. I'm trying to get Cal back. Okay. I take Cal. The screen I wasn't able to show. We have to do this again. There's only
Can see now?
Now we can see, because before it was just all right, so go back.
Okay.
We'll do it again.
Okay, cool.
Ahmaud pulls his right hand off to try to hit Travis. This gives way.
Okay.
Also driving. 5 seconds in, we see Ahmaud for the first time. He appears to be running at a consistent pace. At 9 seconds, we get the first look at the truck stopped in the road. The driver's side door is open. The man standing outside is Travis McMichael. He is armed with a shotgun. Standing in the back of the truck is Travis's father, Greg. He's armed with a handgun. Two things to notice here as the camera starts to move erratically. Watch Ahmaud as he appears to realize what's in front of him. He decides to go around the truck on the right-hand side to avoid Travis. Now, watch it again and think about Roddy Bryant, who is shooting the video. He keeps driving towards the evolving situation, and then listen. That sound raises the question, is Brian cocking a handgun from inside the car? Brian maintains he was unarmed. As we break down the next sequence frame by frame, we see Ahmaud on the passenger side of the McMichael's pickup. In the next frame, we can only see Greg McMichael, who appears to be holding a phone in his ear with his left hand. We know his right hand is holding a pistol. Now we see that Travis McMichael has moved from the driver's side to the front of the truck with his shotgun, presumably to confront Ahmaud. His right leg shows his knees are bent, his head is looking forward. In the next frame, we see Travis has now stepped back, and this is when we hear the first gunshot. The next frame clearly shows that Travis is being pushed back, and Ahmaud has his hands on the rifle. Watch as Ahmaud releases his hands and hits Travis, first with his left hand, then with his right, as the struggle moves out of frame. Greg, meanwhile, now in the back of the pickup, puts his phone down and appears to ready his pistol. Then another shot. And we see smoke coming from the struggle. At 27 seconds into the video, Travis and Ahmaud can be seen again struggling over the rifle. Watch right here. Ahmaud pulls his right hand off to try to hit Travis. This gives way to the final shot. The final frame of the 36-second video shows father and son each holding a firearm standing in the street with Ahmaud Arbery laying on the ground dying.
All right, so let's bring in Ashley Banfield and talk about what we just saw broken down. And from my perspective, that's the clearest it's ever been explained to me, Ashley.
And there you have it. So I'm gonna bring Kyle back. Sorry for the delay, little breaks in this on this live feed. But again, for those of you who have watched it, it may have had some impact on you. I'm dealing with it now. I'm trying to get Kyle back already. Hope he got his text. Let's see if I can get him to continue this. Okay, Kyle. Okay, good. All right. So yeah, brother. This video that I showed, it was on Court TV, and it broke it down even more. So it's good that you didn't see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so explain, share with all right, let me press him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason why we wanted to bring that up is to just let you know we had a lengthy conversation about the racism and attacks that we face as a culture of Black people from law enforcement. Okay, so what you just saw now was a video clip of civilians attacking unarmed Black people as well. So, I mean, again, the purpose of this is to enlighten, inform, provide tangibles and action steps. So it was hard for me to see this. So just give you some indication on kind of why Kyle couldn't see it. And he's going to give you, it was hard for me to see it to the point where I'm detached to a degree because I didn't go through or be exposed to it at the length that Kyle has been. So now I leave the topic, I give the floor over to Kyle to explain and give his side and his perception on the impact of civilians coming at us as well. So Kyle, it's over to you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, brother. And family, you know, Kaidi and I had to talk beforehand in reference of showing the footage, and it definitely needs to be exposed for the purpose of not promoting, but to proliferate the inhumanity against Black folks in this country. But personally, I didn't watch it. Like, I didn't watch it initially when it came on TV. I excused myself, as you saw. I excused myself from when he showed it just now. And also in reference of the George Floyd, what just happened with the brother George Floyd, I haven't fully watched that tape as well, because for me, a lot of times in our society, especially now, people are big on this trauma porn. They call it trauma porn, and it's called that because a lot of people are feeding themselves off of like these horrific, violent acts, and they're getting off on it. They're getting some type of excitement or rush of emotion from it. Whether it be for literally be for pleasure or it be for just because they're psychic, they're just used to drama and they want something in their life to give them a jolt of emotion. But for me, you know, I don't need to watch, you know, Ahmaud Arbery getting shot. I don't need to see George Floyd being pretty much strangled, choked to death by someone's knee being kneeled on. I don't need to see that because I protect my mind and my body with certain images I allow in. And to be real with you, I have a plethora of images already pre 2020, pre 2018, pre 2000, pre 1990, pre 1980, 70, 60, 50, 40. I remember my parents, especially my mother, showing me images of men and women being lynched when I was 10. And she didn't show me in the sense of to scare me, but she showed me to see that this historically how they have treated us in this country. There's a famous picture that always in my mind, and I think about it almost probably at least once a week. It's from 1919 in Marion, Indiana. These two brothers, these two men, I don't know if they were brothers, but they were friends or associates of some sort. Thomas Shipp and Abram Smith, right? So these two guys, they were jailed on the suspicion of murder and rape with this woman. Now, Marion, Indiana, people know that's the Midwest, it's not down south. This is 1919, so this is around the time of the Spanish flu we're talking about. That image is forever in my mind. Like the fact that to see them hanging from the trees and seeing white spectators get off on that, right? So this is a long history of these people being literally lynched on camera. Whether you want to call it lynch by rope, lynch by gun, lynch by knife, lynch by strangulation, it's still a lynching, right? So that those imageries, I don't need to compound that. I've seen it enough. I've seen enough Black death in my lifetime. I've seen enough Black tragedy and violence in my lifetime already. And I don't need to compound that with new Black tragedy. It's like a layer cake, right? You haven't even gotten over the first layer before there's another tragedy, and then you got to absorb that. Then you haven't finished even absorbing that when there's another layer. How many layers do you need? How many layers do you need? And a lot of times, to be honest with you, some people watching it really to get off on it. Like a lot of people who are racist or have some type of heavy racism or white supremacist mindset, they get off on seeing those images. They play them over and over again like it's a joke, right? Like, oh, this is my entertainment for today. So in my mind and my psyche, I don't need to see that anymore, right? And I don't need to see it all because it's already playing in my mind already. And the historical reference of our men, women, and children being lynched, being shot, being stabbed, being strangled, being castrated. I've seen those images, and those images are forever in my mind. You can't unforget that. You can't unforget a black man being burned at the stake with his body being charred. You can't forget that image once you see it. You can't unforget that. So I'm very careful on the images I see in reference of our people and in humanity in general. And again, to remember those brothers, Thomas Shipp and Abram Smith, who were lynched in 1919. Look it up if you choose so. But yeah, in reference of that, I know how damaging it can be on the psyche, and we're already dealing with a lot now. So I don't want to keep going, but that's why I have to excuse myself.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
So as best we can, you've seen it. You already seen the footage. We kind of went into length in regards to it's similar to, the law enforcement thing. But I guess what I would add to this topic of conversation is.
Oh, and real quick, Kade.
Go.
Real quick. That's where the term picnic comes from. If people don't know that, that's where the term picnic. When people say I go picnic comes from pick a nigga and hang them. Let's have a festival. Let's have a celebration. I mean, these were gathering sessions for people. People don't. I don't know if your family all realize that, but these were gathering sessions for white racist men and women and their children to be like, oh, look at them hanging up there. To cut off their toes, to cut off their private parts, and to have them as souvenirs. This happened in human history. This happened, and it's still happening. It happened with Emmett Till, which we're about to go into, Kaede. It's happening. It's been happening. And lynchings were a form of method of intimidation, because lynchings weren't happening during slavery. Why? And not say they weren't, but they weren't happening as much during slavery because they were already enslaved. They were already under the guise and the force of the white racist slavery system. So there was no need to really lynch unless somebody really got out of line. Then they were, like Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, those folks. Lynches didn't start to proliferate till after post-slavery, right? As an intimidation tactic, cross burnings as well. So yeah, it goes deep.
Thank you, Kyle. What I guess all of you who are watching also probably don't realize, especially those of the faith who are in church. I attended a Baptist church for a good portion of my younger life, and every year, this is how insane this is, how dysfunctional this is, toxic, all those negative adjectives to describe the history of this. Every summer we would have a picnic. It would be a church picnic. And church picnic, if you think about it, because we didn't know our history, and I'm not going to go into the whole Christianity thing. We're not going to talk about that now, but we're actually celebrating something that annually, as a young person growing up, I didn't have no clue. I was excited about the picnics. Every summer we're going to go to the picnic, we're going to go to the pool, what have you. But the theme of it, I'm celebrating, which was to a large extent the annihilation and killing and torture and dehumanization of my ancestors. As a community, as a group, in church. So it gives some kind of weight or some kind of context of just how deep this thing goes and just how much we don't know. So I just wanted to bring that into the conversation, Kyle, of the word that you use, picnic. As it relates to civilian atrocities, we live in a country that it's so, I don't know if the right word is prolific, but to the point that white people don't even realize what they're doing or where it comes from or think what they're doing is right because of what they've been indoctrinated with and programmed with growing up.
Right.
And with that, because we went at length with that, but with that ties into the Central Park situation that Kyle was leading into before we transition. Kyle?
Indeed. Yes. So we know about the Central Park situation with the Central Park 5. That's on another scale. That was here in New York before I moved here and lived here. But then you have a new case with the woman Amy Cooper, I think her name is, that is calling out and threatening the Black African American
African American bird watcher.
Yeah, African American bird watcher, right? And he's telling hey, put your dog on the leash. And then she gets all frazzled, like, hold on, God.
Which was, that's a rule in that area of the park. You must have your dog on the leash. So he's not telling him to do something that is a law of the park.
That's right. That is correct. And not threatening her, not shouting at her, but he's being like, hey, put your dog on the leash, like that's like you said, that's the rule in this park in this area. And then she becomes frazzled and she's like, I'm calling, like, you're threatening me. And then she starts changing her voice, like, oh my gosh, like, it goes to that high pitch octave. And all the while, which is kind of comedy in it, she's strangling her dog at the same time, which is kind of hilarious to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the situation is not hilarious, but I mean, you're so worried about like calling on this fake call that you're strangling your dog at the same time. Like that's just like a perfect comic moment if it wasn't for real, but luckily the brother got out of it. Luckily, he wasn't accosted by any law enforcement or any police or anything like that. And he was able to keep his life. But in reference of what I mentioned before with Thomas Shipp and Abram Smith and Emmett Till, these were people, civilians that called them out on something that they didn't do, and they lost their lives on it. They lost their lives on it. They lost their lives on just a hearsay from a white man or white woman that he looked at me wrong, or he said something to me wrong, or he quote unquote maybe whistled at me, or he touched me, or his car is bigger than mine, his business is doing better than mine, he's walking, he's running, he's talking, he's breathing. I mean, it's like, come on, man. Come on. Like, but see, luckily, thank goodness she lost her job.
Yep.
She lost the dog.
First of all, she was put on administrative leave first.
Right, first.
And then she lost her job.
Then she lost.
Talk about that. I want to talk.
Yeah, definitely. So, where's the retribution? That is some retribution. But again, that's if that brother had not had his phone, just think of what might happen. We might be talking about two cases right now. And that's not, as my students would say, that's not me dragging it. That's facts. That's facts, family.
Thank you, Cal. One of the things I want to add to that. Now, listen, let me make this clear. As clear as I can. I understand. Let me make this main clear and it'll cascade down. I understand that white people were indoctrinated too. I understand that when we're born babies, racism isn't a part of us. That's not part of birth. Racism is not inherited.
Social construct.
Right, it's a social construct. Meaning, as you're born, your parents teach you that. Your parents teach you the differences and teach you their so-called terminology of inferiority complex.
Correct.
It's not born racist is the point I'm trying to make. And let me calm down.
Yeah.
So I am acutely aware that people have been programmed too, and it's generational, parents upon parents. So they were grown, their parents told them that blacks, in this case, in this context, are inferior than you are.
Yes.
And then the system supports their parents' teaching. Okay, so it's a combination of things that take place. So I'm saying that to say that there are white people who operate this way simply out of indoctrination and programming. That's all they know. That's all they knew. The system supports it. They see that. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I put that out there that's clear, so I'm not, people don't think I'm oblivious to what's going on. I'm trying to blame people. But at some point, you realize that what you were programmed to believe and think is not true. Proof of it is that clip that I showed with Jane Elliott in the previous interview thing that we did, where she had a group of white people in an audience at a school and asked them if they would like to take the place of a black person living in this country. She asked them to stand if they would like to switch roles with a black person in this country. And not one of them stood up, which tells me you know something's wrong and you wouldn't want to be treated that way, and you know that's unfair. So now it comes to a point where you have to take accountability of what you've been taught by your parents, what's ingrained in you and indoctrinated in you from your parents and society and the media, and what's right compared to what's wrong.
Correct.
This is where I'm coming from. So I'm saying that, Kyle, to say this, and I'm gonna leave it over to you.
Okay.
My man, who was the bird watcher, I forgot his name. You remember his name?
I do not remember the brother's name, unfortunately. Sorry. Yes. Sorry about that, fam. Yeah.
We'll improve on that, but emotional.
But you know what's interesting about that, really brief? The fact that he survived, and then we don't know his name. But the one that yeah, man, that's
we'll get his name. We'll get his name.
Yeah, man, we definitely will, family. But I'm saying that because the psychosis even on us.
Yeah.
To say that you don't take the time to know the brother's name because he survived.
Yes.
It's the ones that we remember the name, the ones that die off.
Dang.
And that's the dynamic they have us following. We following, we don't even know what we're following unless we stop and think about it. Like, wow, I didn't take the time to learn the brother's name because he got out. He survived. Like, it's good, man. It's the game.
So that is so true. Hold on.
These are brothers we need to be champion. These are brothers we need to be saying their name a lot more. Like, hey, champion, be like so and so. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, like.
Yes. Yeah.
You
all right, so we keep
focused on the losses we're taking, but we also got to focus on the people who are doing the work, who are championing the work.
Right. I think his name is Christian Cooper.
Okay.
I think his name is Christian Cooper. That's his name.
Okay. You definitely got to put him in the chat. You know,
hold on. All right. No, I don't think it's the man who shot the video of the encounter. Christian Cooper is what they say.
Okay.
Oh, NPR Tuesday evening, what the woman did. Yeah, it's so funny because her name is Amy Cooper.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, isn't it?
From what I'm gathering, we could be wrong, but I believe his name is Christian Cooper.
Okay.
And her name is Amy Cooper. How interesting is that? Same last names. But here's my point. Christian Cooper is now asking that the people stop attacking Amy Cooper. Stop launching threats at her. I'm conflicted with that. My point is this. I don't wish death on anybody. Let me make that clear. I don't wish death on anybody, not my worst enemy. I don't want death on anybody, so no.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a problem with what they call it, the savior syndrome complex, or the indoctrination that we have, where as the person being the victim, asking that others stop what they're doing.
Yeah.
For me, this is just me. I'm not in that situation. I'm saying for me, I would remove myself from that situation entirely and not comment and let the chips fall where they may. I would let the chips fall where they may. I would leave it with the Lord and let him handle it. Because it's happening that way for a reason. And the other part of it too is the realization on me that one of the things that I would say to Christian Cooper if he was,
present,
to speak to him is, brother, you realize that if she got what she wanted, you could have been dead. You're wishing that people don't attack her or threaten her life, but she in essence threatened your life. Let me calm down.
Yeah. No, see, and no, I'm glad, man, bro. I'm glad that you're showing emotion, man, because fam, you got to realize how deep this hurts, how deep this goes. We've been dealing with this since we was babies. You know what I'm saying? Like this, and our folks been dealing with this since they was babies, and our other folks, our grandparents and great grandparents, been dealing since they was babies. So you got to feel like the hurt and the perspective that we're coming from. I wish harm on no one. And but if they try to harm me without just reason, then I gotta defend myself, like anyone else, like any sane person would do. But what Kaidi, but to add on what Kaidi is saying is facts. It's like, yo, we're in kind of like it's in the in between zone. It's like, no, do we want harm on her? No, not in the human. That shows the humanity of us. The fact that he got out of being harmed or possibly killed, but he still sees the humanity in this woman to say, look, family, I got out okay. Everything's cool now. She got some retribution. She lost her job. She lost her dog. Look, it's settled with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got out of it okay. It's settled with me. You know what I'm saying? But that shows the humanity. Even in spite of him possibly being killed, he still shows his humanity still shines through.
So here. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, man. That's what. Yo, man. Hey, man. If that's not a greatness upon the people, I don't know what is. And again, it could be an Achilles heel for sure. But if that shows you our wherewithal, our awareness, and also our just human ability, man, to just forgive folks. Yo, man, it's beyond.
Here's where I'm coming from. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it. Now let me add some emphasis to this. It would be, and I'm coming from it from this angle. It would be different to some degree if she called the cops and said, I'm feeling uncomfortable, whatever, like that. Right? Because that would be the truth of the matter, right?
Yeah.
Saying like, I'm feeling uncomfortable. There's this black man here telling me what to do. I feel offended, whatever, like that. To the 911 officer, like that. Where it changed, which is why I have every reason to believe that his life was threatened, was when she changed the tonality of her voice to make it seem like she was being attacked physically.
Yes.
Which would have resulted in cops coming to the rescue of a white woman whose life is in danger.
Yes, sir.
That's the difference. That's the key difference. Whereas his life would have been in danger based on some fabrication that she did and calling and bringing the police in. That's the problem.
Yes.
And that's the conversation that I would want to relay to Christian Cooper, Mr. Cooper in there, saying, brother, do you realize, and this is where it gets thick. That what she did was intentional.
Oh, very.
It wasn't like she was just trying to get the cops over to her side and play it out as if it would be something that's a disagreement verbally.
Right.
So, her intention was for the cops to do harm because of the history that we've already experienced in this country as it relates to everything that had played out, especially in New York City, in reference to how cops treat black men in this country. When she called the police with that intention in mind, she knew what they call that in court, with intent.
Right, with intent.
With intent. She called with intent to do harm to somebody who did not threaten her physically, who was just telling her what the rules of the park were. So because she didn't want to abide by the rules, not his rules, the park's rules, because she didn't want to abide by the rules, she thought it would be right to call the cops to put a man's life in danger. That's what I have a problem with.
Oh, definitely.
The problem with Christian not realizing, brother, she had every intent of doing you bodily harm to the extent of losing your life, and you're telling others to not do that or threaten their life. Like I said, to that extent, I would say just stay out of it, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't involve yourself in the conversation. Your part of it was what was filmed. That's it. You're done. Let the chips fall where they may. That's what I want to add to that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's like, yeah, man. It's just a lot of real talk that needs to be had. And this is not Mobile, Alabama. You know, this ain't
right. This is the
this ain't Jackson, Mississippi. You know, this ain't Biloxi, Mississippi. This ain't Charleston, South Carolina. This is New York.
NYC.
Right? Huh?
I said NYC.
Right, NYC, right? The most diverse, supposedly, you make it here, you make it anywhere. This is up north, family. Like, this is on the East Coast. Like, it's everywhere. I don't care if you're in South Dakota, Portland, Oregon, Dallas, Texas, Los Angeles, California, Phoenix, Arizona, Salt Lake City, Utah. It goes down anywhere. It can go down anywhere. And that's what we're trying to say. Like, this pervasive thing of racism, white supremacy is a true virus on the system. You know what I'm saying? It's a true virus. And if we don't deal with it, it's going, like what's happening now. We don't deal with it, like, this is what's going to occur. And again, going back to what we said earlier, most of these protesters are not black folk. Most of these protesters are Caucasians doing this stuff, whether for better or for worse, but it's them. And we're in it, true, but it's mostly them protesting. Look at the footage, So yeah, it's just really it's really disheartening and really messed up.
Just keep it real. Just keep it all the way real. All right.
Yeah.
You say it's been brought out that it's mostly white folks protesting. Granted, fine, but I have a question.
Yeah.
If it was someone in their family, or loved one it is, or if it was someone white that represented culture, would they be reacting the same way?
Meaning, like what? Like, say it again.
Would they be in protest, or would they be coming armed to the teeth with AK-47s and guns, demanding that the atrocity that take place, that the guy's life be taken already, that incarceration wasn't good enough?
They do it on a small scale. I mean, if you see some footage of certain people, they do it on a small scale. But again, you have these militias too. You have, people, these weekend warriors, they call them, like these militias that practice and do these like paramilitary training. You got to talk about that aspect too. And these are like, these guys follow the Constitution, meaning like if the government ever goes awry, these folks come in to help regulate the government and military forces. So, man, it's levels to this, man. It really is. It really is. Like, people thinking, they tipping through the tulips. I don't know what's going on, but it's real out here. And again, I'm talking to the choir. I know I am. I'm talking to the choir. Y'all know it's real out here. What I'm saying is we have the tools and the wherewithal to do what we can and to resist. But if you're waiting for someone else to do that for you, you're going to be waiting. You're going to be waiting till your children's children. You know what I mean? Like, that's history. History is not here. History is here to serve us. History is not here for us to just spit facts. Like when I talked about Thomas Shipp and Abram Smith, and when I talk about Dr. Neely Fuller and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, when we talk about Angela Davis in the 60s and the 50s, it's not just to say it just because it sounds cool. It's to say as a reference, to say how can we use that information or what they went through in today's time where it can be effective. Like, that's real.
Very good. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, sir. Yeah,
Thank you,
so you got it. So tangibles and action steps as it relates to. Yes, recap it. Let's put it in
oh man.
Format. So if you find yourself as an African American minority,
but let's not say let's not say minority too. Like, yo, man, no minorities, no more minority. I hate that term. Hate is a very strong word, family, but I hate that term minority. I hate it. Why? Because we're not the minority, we're the majority. We're at least 80% of the world's population. If you want to use that term, people of color now, people of color are 80% of the world's population, right? Now we're 12 to 13% here in the States, right? We're 12 to 13 in the States, roughly speaking. And the census is out this year, so that's going to change because majority of the nation is becoming ethnic, right? So that whole term minority, dead that. I'm not, we're not minority. I don't even function as that. It's a majority.
All right,
do your research.
All right, so that's that.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry, and it's not you, man, but I hate that term because it's a misleading term.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So with us as a majority, as Kyle explained, where we're at risk of civilians, with our lives at risk, what are some tangibles or action steps? Personally, for me, I always mind my business. I go about my business.
But speak on that, Kyle, that mind your business, because that has a different connotation.
All right.
We've talked about this before.
Right. So let me give some, all right. So first of all, I don't give civilians, I try not to anyway, give civilians a reason to attack me. So for example, the example that we gave, if I'm in the park and I'm bird watching and a woman like Amy Cooper is in there, and I'll give some real context to it, stemming back when I was real young. She don't have her dog on the leash. I look at it from a variety of, two particular approaches. Number one, I'm not the police. That's number one. And
no citizen's arrest, huh?
Nah, I wouldn't do a citizen's arrest because I know the climate. Right. And I know the input, the privilege that white people feel they have. And I know where I stand. So if I know where I stand in this context, nah, son, as long as I'm able to bird watch,
right,
that dog is not attacking me and trying to fight me, then bygones be bygones, live and let live. I ain't coming for you. So to that extent, boom, I go about my business, you go about yours. I know you ain't coming to me to try and start up a conversation. I know you ain't trying to interact with me because I'm black and you white. And we in this park and there's not a lot of people there. So I know my life ain't in danger. You as a woman, because you trying to attack me, I'm going to defend myself and knock you out. Simply put. So I know I'm good. I ain't got to worry about that. So you over there doing your thing. I'm over here doing mine. Like I said, I already gave that explanation clear. Right? So that's the first thing, one of the things I would do. All right, let's say I'm feeling myself that day. You know, I just did a conference or a lecture and quote unquote, I killed it, right? White people were like, oh, all that, whatever. I feel like I've changed some lives and they are glad at the information that I shared with them. And I feel like, oh, okay, there might be a change taking place in society where white people are coming around and, it's, to live and let live and, all the time, whatever. Just say I'm in there and I decide to go to the park and do some bird watching. I'm feeling myself. I'm just, I'm trying to give an example.
Yeah, you're in a good mood.
I'm in a good mood, what have you, right? And then this happens. I would probably say, excuse me, ma'am, you might want to put your dog on the leash or what have you. The rules said dog on the leash or whatever. Boom. Say that. She said, excuse me, or whatever her reaction was, right? Like that. soon as she say excuse me, or she don't want to do it, or push back, all right, no problem. I'm going about my business. That's it. That's all the exchange is going to take. And recorded someplace else. At least I did my job as a citizen to alert the civilian that there are rules in this park that you should abide by. That's all I can do. I can't force you to do it. I tell you, you don't do it, I'm on. I'm done. So that's one example of how I would, how can I say, like I said before, mind my business. Simple as that, as it deals with other civilians, especially. Now, here's one other thing I want to add to, because I can give examples upon examples of it. But when I was younger, I'll never forget. I lived in the Bronx probably 6 years at this point, and there was a new development that was built up, and it had like nice landscapes, trees and grass and benches, and it was fenced off, right? It was a new tenement built like 6 stories, the highest, but this was in the late 70s.
Okay.
Right? The neighborhood was still populated with Italians,
okay,
Jewish and whites.
Yep.
So they moved into this new complex. Brand new, brother. Green grass. Woo! Rich green too, right? The playground, new bars. We got in there, not through the front door, because if you didn't live in the building, you weren't allowed in there. Security was at its height. So we found a way to get in through the gate.
Right.
Or climb over the gate. You know, you be young kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we get in there. So anyway, long story short, this white group of people, white family, they just moved in or what have you. There was this young girl, and I assume she was a gymnast. And what she would do, there was like, it was like it was the grounds where they had the benches and section, little pavements here and like a path, like different pathways, like a maze or something like that. So she was doing a flip. She was going to do some gymnastics on this pavement, and to the left was the playground, with the new swings and all of that. So I remember I was standing on top of the playground with some of my friends, and they were making this big thing about her, like, this whole big, this whole thing with that, and she was scared and she was intimidated. And this ties into the humanity that we have as a people, right? So I'm like, I say, they're doing this out for a few minutes. So I take it upon myself to shout out, don't worry about it, you can do it. That's what I said. Don't worry about it, don't be scared, you can do it. We with you. We know you can do it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
No rules enforced. I ain't say you can't. That's what I said. You know what her response to me was?
What?
Mind your business. I know I can do it. Who asked you anyway?
That's that New York feel right there for your family.
Now my friends are clowning me. Oh, he dissed you. I'm feeling bad because I was just trying to encourage her at that point, Kyle. I kid you not. At that age, I was like, I'm never going to say nothing to a white person until we come again.
Oh man,
I'm done. I'm through. That's what I mean by mind your business. So tangible steps and action steps as it deals with civilians in this climate, particularly as it deals with other cultures. Mind your business. If they're not attacking you, nothing what they're doing is impeding your process or where you got to go. Mind your business. Go about your business. That's the main rule that I have right there. Now, here's the alternative. Now, if what they're doing is attacking you or impeding you around your process, use technology. Record everything. Don't even say nothing. Put the recorder on first before you even respond.
Yep.
And then record every conversation, because that way they can't say, well, I know I see the video, but who knows what took place before that?
Right.
Who knows what led up to it? Maybe he did something or said something that made her react that way, or made the officers react that way. Soon as you see that tension that was going on, it's directed at you, and you know you're in harm's way, or it's impeding your effect, put that recorder on. And then you commence your commencement speech, and then your talk. That way they have the beginning, middle, and end. No confusion. No miss nothing. The first words that you spoke was when that recorder was on. Prior to that, you didn't say nothing else. Prior to that, This is what happened to me. This was a attack, and I put the recorder on before I responded or reacted in any way, shape, or form outside of starting the recording. Those are my 2 steps in regards to civilian interaction and the life, the what we're dealing with in this society. That's my tangibles and action steps. There you go.
Cool. That's what's up. Yeah, family. Yeah, family. There's so many solutions out there. And Kyle just gave really good two good ones. And then based on his experiences and based on our collective experiences, like, I mean, again, you have a computer in your hand at all times. You have a camera in your hand at all times and use it to your ability. Now, that doesn't say that stuff can't go bad quickly without, whether you have it or you don't, but it's less likely for it to go bad quickly or bad at all if you do have that phone in your hand. Now, I mean, that doesn't, again, there are certain rules of engagement when you're dealing with law enforcement or you're dealing with people who don't have people who are racist and don't have your best interest at heart, of course. But it's on a case by case scenario. You know, like if you're dealing with law enforcement and you're in a dark place, you know, you need to like say if you're driving, for those who drive, you know, make sure you get to a lit place before you stop your car, so that way at least you're in some type of light. If you're walking, like, you know, if you're a New Yorker or, you know, in a major city, you walk a lot, you know, try to be as calm as possible. You know, don't make sudden moves. You know, try to take down badge numbers, etc. if you can. You know, because police officers have told me in certain workshops that your rights, you knowing your rights is imperative, meaning it's very important. But if you're on a dark alley, I'm just being hypothetical. If you're in a dark alley and there's nobody around, you talking about, I know my rights. Okay. I mean, this is real. I mean, other law enforcement have told me this. Other law enforcement have told me this. Like, yeah, know your rights, but it's on a case by case scenario. You may have a cop that's highly volatile, and he'll jack you up just on GP. But then you might have another police officer that is cool. Like, look, you know what I'm saying? Like, like he may be a asshole, but he's not trying to go there. You know, he's not trying to violently go there with you. So yeah, it's on a case by case scenario.
I'm sorry, Kyle.
Yeah,
all right,
man.
all right. You know your rights, all right?
Yeah, so but you still got to know your rights, base, and then you got to. Again, it's not an either or thing. It's both. Again, we need people on a law level, on a political level. We need people on a government level. We need people on a city level. We need people on a state level. We need people on a grassroots level. We need it all. We need it all. So there's no either or. People are like, oh man, we need people here. No. We need people all everywhere.
Well, basically, Kyle, just to piggyback real quick, didn't mean to interrupt you, but I term it as we need the true representation of the society that we live in.
This is it. What we seeing right now, that is the true representation.
I mean in all levels of society, government. Like, for example,
we're seeing it. We're seeing it right now in real time with Agent Orange. You know what I'm saying? With President Cheeto. That he is who he is. We're seeing it in real time. This is who they are.
No. What I'm trying to explain, in all levels of representation, meaning in government, we need to see, like, I'll use a simple term like these lectures or panel discussions, right?
Yeah. In
every panel discussion, obviously, as it relates to the topic broadly, we need to see, and I'm gonna go in alphabetical order. We need to see African American representative up there on the panel. Yeah. We need to see Asian American, African, right? Asian, Black, however you want to interchange them. Middle Eastern, Hispanic, and white. You know, the umbrella, the rainbow umbrella. We need to see every cultural representation in all aspects of society, because that's the society that we live in. These panels where there's 4 whites and 1 black. I mean, you know, 2 white women, 2 white men, and 1 black woman. These little things like that, calling it for the sake of diversity. Excuse my language again, those who are listening. I don't mean to offend them, but that's bullshit. I'm tired of that. If it's a broad topic, right, it's related to a broad scenario to society, we need to see every culture represented on that panel, because that's the true representation of society that we live in. And that goes for government too. Politicians, whatever. We need to see every representation in that entity, because that's the society in which we live in, and that's the true reflection of what we live in, as opposed to what we see. That's what I meant by that, Cal. That's what
right. Thank you for clarifying that, man. And to add on to what Kaide is saying, he's absolutely right. And also what he's saying, what he's not saying, but saying is that if you're waiting on your oppressor to do these things for you, you're gonna be waiting, and your children's gonna be waiting. So what he's saying is, take the initiative, family, and do it on your own. If you're waiting on them, the government or your oppressor or your a white supremacist who doesn't have your best interest at heart, nor your family, nor your children at heart, what are you waiting on? Like, who does that? Who waits on their enemy to do something for their benefit? Who does that? But that's because you don't know that they're your enemy. That's why. You don't know that certain people that's actually against you. You know, when we talk to our students as educators, right? You know, they have these feelings that a lot of times, and again, I've been teaching for a little over 20 years. There's some feelings that they have that they can't really pinpoint, but when they come across certain individuals as myself and Kaide and other educators, real true educators, and these are African American children and Latino children, when it's like, man, I just feel like they don't want me to win, and it's like, that's not a ill feeling. That's facts. That's not coming from out of the blue. That's coming from you're feeling something, even though you can't articulate it. You know it exists, and even if you can't pinpoint it, you know it's there. And it's up to us to say, oh yeah, there are definitely people waiting on your demise. They're gonna dance a jig. They're gonna make a song and benefit and profit off of your pain and demise. That's just what it is.
Real talk.
And the sooner you recognize that, and the sooner you recognize who your true enemies are, is when the real work can really start, and you can really start to strategize and really see what is out there and how you need to approach it, how you need to deal with it. But until you recognize who is truly against you, and also promote unity and communication and solidarity with your community and with people who really care about your well-being, then you're really not, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice.
Real talk. Thank you, brother. There you go. You have any more tangibles or solutions or action steps to transition to the next and final topic?
No. I just say, hey, love yourself, be yourself, love yourself enough to protect yourself and your family. During these times, link up, squad up, crew up, and let's get free, as Dead Press said.
Awesome. All right, so the next topic we're going to touch on is kind of a switch to a degree, right? And what that is, basically, I had the honor of someone reaching out to me. We'll do an at length. I should have did that before. Chantel, I believe her name is. Chantel, if you view this, my apologies if I forgot your name. I'm trying to. She approached me with regards to. She's in Canada.
Okay.
And she approached me with regards to human trafficking that has taken place in Canada, and I just thought it's suitable to.
Excuse me, fam.
Yeah, I believe this is you. No, this isn't you. We'll do a part 2 on this because I didn't prepare adequately enough. Oh, here it is. Cheyenne Jones.
Okay.
Cheyenne, I hope I said your name correctly. I apologize if I mispronounced it. I've been pretty busy, but I always wanted to address this topic, especially with my colleague Cal here. So if you view this, just know that we're doing our best to try and approach it in a way that's going to inform and uplift the community. So I just wanted to, Miss Cheyenne Jones, and if I said it wrong, please don't hesitate to correct me. But we're going to switch the topic real quick as we close out on this final topic. So, and Cal, if you have the link on your, I'm gonna try and share it. Let me see if I can try and share it.
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can do that. Okay, so here it is right here. Let me see if this allows me to share that application. All right, so apparently it does not.
Okay.
I can't. I got to figure out what's going on with this application window, but oh man. So I'm just going to pretty much read it.
Okay.
And then if you can share it, Kyle, I'm on do you want to share it or do you have access to it?
Yeah. If you post it, I can, post it up or whatnot.
Gotcha.
I don't have access to it right now.
So you want me to post it on where? Facebook?
You can post it. Well, you can't post it like you did the last time. I would say post it on Facebook, and then I can probably bring it up.
Okay.
With my email.
It's a PDF document,
though. Let's see.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to post up the title, the coordinates page, and we'll just touch on that, just to give people an insight on just how pervasive this is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, human trafficking is a huge global issue. Global issue. Like that's, if you're talking about some depths of humanity, inhumane ways of treating people, man. And that goes back to slavery as well.
Yes, sir.
Back to the transatlantic slave trade, transatlantic slave trade as well. The Ma'afa, call it. Yeah.
Did you tell me that Facebook don't accept PDFs?
No, it's another website.
All right, so I'm gonna try and do a PDF here and set that up that way. I'll do the best I can, y'all. Cheyenne, we'll talk about this again. Please reach out to us if you would be interested in being a guest, because we would love to have you as a guest on here. So look out, just reach out to us, and we'll make a difference.
Yeah, definitely. Please reach out to us, family. Yeah, if you definitely have some valuable information to share. We just don't let anybody on our podcast, but those people who've had work in the community, who've definitely put in the time and the effort to do research on certain things, it's important. So, definitely just reach out to us as far as like email or here through the chat. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So Kyle, I uploaded on the Facebook. So you'll see if you get that. See if you can share that, and then I'm gonna see if I can share this PNG. See if it allows me to share the PNG at least to an application, and it doesn't. It doesn't allow me to do that.
Yeah.
So I can do the tab, and I can share the screen though. I think I can share the screen, the entire screen. I'm not sure. Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Right. If you've seen it, or did you? You know what? I forgot to. Hold on. Let me do this as well.
Okay. So yeah, family. So as he's getting it together, like again, when we talk about this discrimination, definitely with human trafficking, I mean it's a global epidemic, or they call it pandemic, because it's all over, and it definitely has its roots in the transatlantic slave trade. The Africans being put in bondage, kidnapped, raped, tortured, and or being brought to the Americas. Americas meaning North America and South America, because you have a large population of Africans in Brazil, more so than here in North America in the United States. So yeah, it has its roots, and it's still going on. Like young Black girls who've been missing throughout America in the past few years, and I'm sure it's been going on more than that for sure. But as far as my awareness, that I've noticed in the past few years, these are young black girls going missing. I mean, I grew up in the 80s where kidnapping was a huge thing. Like kids was getting snatched like crazy in the 80s, and it's still going on So don't think like, oh, that was the 80s. It doesn't happen anymore. No, it still goes on. It's just now it's not on milk cartons anymore. Right. It used to be on the milk cartons. I don't think it still is. I don't drink milk anymore, but
no, not as much.
Yeah, it used to be on the milk cartons like crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that was a great marketing tactic. That was a great marketing tactic. We need to be doing that with some of our foods and snacks. Like why don't?
It's been taken over by corporate, right?
Yeah.
So they can't make enough money, I'm assuming, with that image in particular. So it's been taken over by, brands, so to speak. They feel more people will buy.
Yeah.
So, all right. So here we go. Did you see it on Facebook, Cal? I don't know if
I see it.
All right. So if you could share that, let me know if you could share. We could touch on it that way, or I could just read it from the screenshot that I have on my PC.
Let's see. Let's see if I can share the link.
Okay. Again, while Kyle is working on that, we're going to touch on a couple of topics. We're going to pick them, but if you want it's a PDF form. It's quite a few pages. But for those of you who are in organizations that deal with human trafficking or sex trafficking, for parents who are concerned about their children, a movie that came out which was real interesting about organ harvesting that ties into human trafficking, such as the movie Get Out. These are some areas that can help. Perfect. It's kind of small, so I don't know if they'll be able to see it. So
yeah.
All right. Sorry about that.
That's the best I can do. Yeah.
No problem. But you can put us back. Okay. On. I'll just read it. And all right. You can refer. This is good for you to refer to, Cal, as well.
Definitely.
This gives you viewers an insight on what this document is. Like I said, the PDF. We'll try and put the link down. We have a Facebook page as well, so we can put it on Grand Rising Collective Facebook page right up there, so they can go to the Facebook page and download the PDF if they prefer. For more information, we'll put the link down at the bottom of the Grand Rising Collective YouTube channel.
Yes.
You access the Facebook page and get this information. Again, rules and action steps, right? So I'm going to cover the first segment, which is social media. You can cover financial and just touch on the topics as it comes to you, as it relates personally. We're not experts at this, but we want to give light or exposure to how pervasive this is as it relates to our culture and in the community. And Kyle already elaborated to that as well. So just so you all know, if you didn't relate or didn't understand, human trafficking to a large extent is ingrained into all aspects of society, whether you realize it or not. For me, before I started doing research and study on this, I thought human trafficking was strictly for people, girls and boys, who ran away from home. I didn't even associate it directly to foster care, but that was to the extent of it. It was girls who ran away from home, who got caught up into that or tried to move to Hollywood and be famous, something like that. And they got caught up into that human trafficking. I didn't realize how invasive it was and how intertwined it was in all aspects of society. So I'm going to touch on one. Kyle's going to touch on. We're going to touch on the various aspects that is involved in, and you can get all the information from the PDF. So human trafficking. And I also realized this, but I didn't think it was pervasive. But human trafficking is in social media. Right? Social media. So for you parents, guardians, or what have you, and your child is on the internet and on these different social media sites, this is an aspect of where human trafficking, where they can get access to your child. I think I saw a video of that about last year before, where these girls were on social media. They thought it was innocent. And some kid they thought was a boy, was interacting with them in iMessage or these chat rooms or what have you. And they didn't think nothing of it. It turned out the boy wasn't a boy. He was a 30-year-old man or 40-year-old man. And they make arrangements to meet at some ice cream shop. Not funny, but that's because she didn't think it was dangerous. And thank God for the father. He followed her, tracked her down and caught her. And it just so happened the guy that was doing it was a 30-year-old, 40-year-old man. And she didn't know and got punished.
See, that father's on point. You know what I'm saying? Now, again, regulating, now depending how old his daughter was, regulating her. I'll be real with you, family. Like there was no privacy in my home. Like I couldn't even close the door in our bedroom. Like it would have to be cracked or something, man. There's no privacy. I don't know how other people was raised, but like we couldn't close doors in my house. You know what I'm saying? I mean, of course, you go in the bathroom, whatever, like that type of thing. But there was no closed doors like bedroom doors, and there was no privacy. I'm sure my parents went through my closets, went through my drawers and dressers and all that stuff. And I think as parents and as guardians, people are like, oh, I don't want to invade my child's privacy. Your child has no privacy. That's your child. You don't live with your child. Your child lives with you. There is no privacy. There should be no privacy. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to your child's wherewithal and their health and their well-being. I just want to interject that because I think people get that. Like, why my mom go through my stuff? Your mom and your dad or your guardians going through your stuff because they want to know what you're getting into. Because you might get yourself into something you have no idea.
Very good, Cal. Interject all you want, brother. Yeah. Drop the jewels, baby. Drop the jewels.
I give another scenario. One of my close friends of the family, their bedroom didn't even have a door. Their pops took their door off the hinges, man.
And to a large extent,
in the inner city, they grew up in the inner city. So he's like, look, my sons, it's stuff going on out there. So nah, I'm not giving no privacy. Only go to heaven, no privacy.
You brought up a very good point. To a large extent, that's the extent that you have to take it now.
Yeah, man.
That is, and again, you got to get over the whole, like to your point, Cal.
And your children. You're supposed to know your children too.
Right. And you have to get over the friendship thing. Like with my mom and I and my dad too. Me and mom had a cordial relationship, right? We were cool with each other. I could joke with my mom. My mom would say, I laugh, I joke, but I don't play. That's what my mom would say. I laugh, I joke, but I don't play. So,
The difference. Same here, man. We can joke. Don't play with me.
Right.
Do not play with me. And see, black folks know, let's go real here. Black folks know what we're talking about. Don't play with me. You know what I'm saying? Other people know too, I'm sure, but that's a thing in a black household. Like, don't play with me. You may joke, don't play.
So I can be cool. I can be cool with my mom and all that other, but I knew where that line was.
Oh yeah, you know that line.
I knew where that line was, and my mom didn't play. She ain't play like that. So it was never a situation where my mother was. I mean, we were. How would my mother say? She said. I think she said something along the lines. I was her best friend, or whatever the case may be. But that conversation, or my mother only revealed that when I became an adult.
Right.
Not when I was a child.
Right.
Mother never said I was her best friend and I'm a little kid still growing up. She had to instill certain disciplines in me to make sure that I could fend for myself and survive out here as a man, a particularly young man or young black man in this country. She had to make sure I was set there. So it wasn't until I had my job, bought my own place, got my own car, resembled and acted as a man, took care of my responsibilities, where my mother can now have that kind of relationship with me. But prior to that, I was not her friend. So when your children, you talk about that's your friend, you got my advice is that you got to cut that. So if that means invading your child's privacy, like Kyle was talking about, then you have to do that, because the consequences of not doing that ties into many other things, but in particular the topic we're talking about now, which is human trafficking, and your child not knowing what's going on, getting swept up, and then you're crying or distraught because you lost your child. Had you taken those precautions early on, you could have avoided all that stress and trauma and all that right from the beginning before it started. And like Kyle said, it's how you raise them. So to this point, if you can see his 15 social media, this article touches on how social media may be used in recruitment. So your child on social media is basically leaving themselves vulnerable to recruitment efforts of human traffickers, right? Online relationship recruitment is an example. Online fake or deceptive job recruitment is an example. Some of you probably not realize that. job recruitment for your child when they're getting into internships, or this is in college, of course, but after high school, the case would be, are some of the things you want to be aware of. I'm gonna go through some of them, Kyle, and then interject anywhere you feel you have something you want to add. Okay, Kyle?
Cool.
All right. So another opportunity for human traffickers is how social media, in line with social media, is how social media may be used in trafficking operations, such as advertising and sales via social media. Online behaviors of traveling, sales crews is another one. How social media may be used as a means of control, right? How social media may be used by victims and survivors. So this is saying that even victims and survivors contribute to the whole human trafficking. You would think that if someone has been human trafficked themselves, that they would do everything they can to prevent that from happening to somebody else. This is saying how it's used by them to perpetuate and keep it ongoing. So because they were abused, they're going to spread that abuse to other young people who weren't human trafficking or survived. Then connecting with support systems, getting and staying safe. So how social media, my correction, how social media may be used by victims and survivors. So if you have been a victim of human trafficking, or you're a survivor of human trafficking, I stand corrected. If you're a survivor of human trafficking, this article, this document goes into how you can connect with other support systems and how you can get and stay safe, how you can avoid it, for parents as well who have been exposed to that as well. And then also healing, speaking out, and helping others. This particular section in social media, this document, can help you if you're a survivor or so happen to have been a victim of human trafficking. These are the resources that you can refer to. And then finally, social media recommendations and opportunities. So social media recommendation and opportunities can help. It's a negative, but it can also be used as a positive. You can get access to these resources to help you if you were a victim, are a victim, or are a survivor from human trafficking. So that's my take on social media in an overall summary. Not getting into the depths yet. We could break that down in subsequent discussions, Kyle, or when we have Cheyenne come on, she could break that down in the areas as it relates to Canada and stuff like that. So, that's social media. You could touch on financial service industry from what we can see here for what this caption, if you want, however you want to go. But, it's on you now with social services industry. If you have anything you want to add to the social services industry related to human trafficking.
I mean, just like I'm looking, as I'm looking at the list, from what I can see, it's just like these are all the different aspects of how society plays into human trafficking. So don't get caught slipping. Like these are pieces of information, data in these different aspects of industries and society where you won't get caught out there and get caught without knowing. Based off your ignorance, you won't get put into slavery or put in situations where it could be likely that you could be kidnapped and accosted and put into these global systems of sex trafficking and slavery. It doesn't matter what age. You could be 9 or 19. It doesn't matter. You could be 23, 25. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. But these are ways that you don't think that human trafficking or plays a part in human trafficking, but it does, like financial services industry, the next one. Right, dealing with labor, dealing with certain, like you said, internships, going certain workplaces, or being a part of certain work environments that may tie into human trafficking, depending on what industry it is and what area it's in, and just being mindful. All your security is priority. Your security is number one. So always being mindful. Like if it doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't right, and you need to get up out of there. Right? Or this person, I thought they were cool at first, but something don't feel right. Make a lie, make an excuse, get up out of there. Like call somebody, make sure you have someone to call immediately. Like say, hey, I'm in trouble, or I need your assistance. Like I don't feel safe right now, and I don't know how to maybe get out of this situation, or I need somebody to pick me up. Like it doesn't matter. Like these have no rules. So people are like, yeah, I don't want to lie, I don't want to seem rude. Nah, get up out of there. If you feel like being rude is gonna save your life, be rude. Be rude.
Go ahead, Kyle. Kyle hit it. And I'm smiling not because this is a light issue. So I want to make sure this is clear for those who are watching. I'm smiling because I'm proud of the fact that I'm associated with this brother, and this brother articulates it and covers areas that I might have missed. So I'm overjoyed that we're able to contribute to this conversation in hopes that it saves lives and saves young people, both girls and boys, young men and young women, from having to experience this in their lives and go through this trauma. If you can avoid it, by all means, avoid it. So I'm very happy when I can share this information and I get feedback from my colleagues who are so on point in sharing this information, because I know to myself or believe that I'm contributing to making the world a better place and holding those accountable to who are doing this. Whether it's a psychological issue that they have, trauma they experience, and they don't know how to deal with it, and they're just spreading it, or the opposite or what have you. Bringing light to the situation just helps make society a better place. So that's why I'm smiling, and I wanted to give clarification on that in case it gets misconstrued. All right, so Al touched on the financial industry, did a great job. There's nothing more I can add to that. Look at, again, we'll have the PDF available. So if you want more information, just ask, we'll give it to you, no problem. We're going to put it at the bottom of this video on YouTube, and we're going to post it to Facebook. So just as to not to get this information, or if the information we didn't cover in detail, you can't get mad at us. We're just bringing light to it and trying to let you know this is out here if you want it. So the other one on here is hotels and motels, and it goes further. There's more to this, family, in regards to this, and I'll touch on the topics as well. Kyle, in your email to pull up the actual PDF, you can pull it, since we can't share the full thing. And
I see it.
All right, so you can go into that. So that's how we'll do this. The other thing is hotels and motels, and that's pretty much a general. How can I say? Knowledge is general knowledge when it deals with traffic. I'm sure we've seen in CNN and cable stations the whole underworld aspect of this, and there's always some way, shape, or form related to hotels, prostitution and all that other stuff. So obviously hotels is a part of human trafficking as well. It talks about hotels used in escort services, how hotels and motels may be used in recruitment, how hotels and motels may be used in trafficking operations such as escort services, other types of sex trafficking, travel sales and cruise, hotel supply chains. So in case you didn't know about that, if you're traveling with your child to a hotel, just know you want to be aware where your child is at all times. Even if you're not with your parent, know that careful where you're staying. How hotels and motels may be used by survivors and victims, victim interactions with hotel staff, survivors utilizing hotels as shelter, and victim identification in hotels. So you can, even though that element is there in hotels, hotels can also be a place of refuge, a place to be safe. If you just let those who know in the hotel, listen, this is what's going on, this is what I'm concerned with, things of that nature. So just keep that in mind. Again, this document has that. Kyle, you want to touch on the transportation industry, if anything, or I'll cover it?
I mean, it just goes back to just basic self-awareness. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a hotel, motel, bus, train, plane, automobile. Like, just be wary of who you get in the car with, especially with these the Uber and the Lyft. Like, make sure you know who you get in the car with. Like, if you're out drinking with your friends and you get in that Uber Lyft drunk or inebriated, that's a bad move, because you don't know who you get in the car with. I don't care if their face and number does come up on the Lyft. It could be bogus. They could be on there just for that one night and then take you off somewhere, and we don't hear from you ever again. Like, you have to be mindful of these things. Travel in packs. You know what I mean? Like if you're getting in an Uber or Lyft, or you're getting on a bus service, you better know and trust that bus service is going to take you where you need to go. Or if you get in a plane, or if you get on a train, like, you need to know what people are around you and who's doing what. If you got your headphones on or your ear pods on, you can't hear anything. You're not aware of your surroundings. So you always be mindful of where you're at. Look, listen, and observe. Look, listen, and observe always. And that will save you from a lot of these situations here. And if not, you need to be with people who have your best interests, who know what's going on around you to help navigate you. But yeah, like, I don't know all the intricacies, but I definitely know with Uber and Lyft, watch yourself. You know what I'm saying? Be mindful who you get in that car with and where they taking you, right? You know what I'm saying? If you got to knock them upside the head, do that too. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being real.
Keep it real. Like, that's what we do.
If they take you somewhere and it look like it's not where you're supposed to be going, like, hey, look, hey, it's not where I'm supposed to be going. And it looks like they on some other stuff. Do what you need to do to get up out of that car. And I'm not going to say anything else. Do what you need to do. I don't know what that's going to be, but, your safety and your life is priority.
Very good, Cal. See, this is why I associate with this brother. One of the main reasons, this is my home. So thank you, Cal, with that. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on, and again, this is for the purpose of just letting you know how pervasive this is and how you wouldn't give any thought. Like I didn't give any thought to it. I didn't think it was that embedded in this, but it is. That's what this document is. So what I'm going to do, Kyle, I'm going to touch on healthcare, and then you can touch on housing and homelessness, the way that you do, whatever information you're supposed to. If it's the same thing that you already said, fine. Add it as it relates to this specific area. Cool.
It's gonna be pretty much the same.
So, hey, you never know, man. You never know.
Yeah.
You look through the thing. This is what I'm doing. Look through the thing and see something. I even speak on that from your reference, right? All right. Okay. So I'm going to touch on healthcare, and healthcare says how health conditions, and disabilities may be used in recruitment. I didn't know that. I didn't know healthcare, health conditions, and disabilities could be used as a recruitment tool to human trafficking. I didn't know that, but now I can see that, right? And now I can see that. I didn't see it. So those of you who probably now you can see it, and it talks about health conditions and disabilities as vulnerabilities to trafficking.
Exactly.
Traffickers offering therapeutic or residential care. I didn't know about that. You got.
I didn't know about that per se, but it just makes sense. See, I'm. And again, I just find out really about human trafficking, like really gotten into it probably about the past 5 years, unfortunately. But it just makes sense. Anything that shows weakness, anything where they can get a one-up on you, is game. It's all fair game. It's all fair game. I don't care if you limping. I don't care if you got a disease. I don't care if you got an ailment. If they can find a way to pounce on you and get you out of there and get you into the whatever sex ring or whatever, they're gonna do it. And again, it could, to be real with you, family, it could also probably be a church too. I'm just being real. Like that's how intrinsic and that's how deeply rooted it is. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm just saying that because I want to kind of break those chains off to say, well, no, it can't happen here. No, it can happen anywhere. Anywhere. And that's what I'm saying. When we talked about earlier, when we talk about racism and white superiority and sexism, you can't hide from it. It's everywhere. It's like Heidi said a minute ago, it's pervasive, meaning it is everywhere. It has proliferated in all industries. Now, does that mean every industry does it? No. Or every company in the industry does it? No, we're not saying that, but it's pervasive. So when you think you're safe, think again.
Yeah,
just to be safe.
There you go. I'm just going to run down the list.
Yeah.
See how me running down the list? Have my brother Cal elaborate more on it? See how that works? Substance use, of course, is a recruitment at healthcare facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Kyle touched on that already. How healthcare and substance may be used in trafficking operations, such as labor trafficking in the healthcare industry. Kyle touched on that already. Sex and labor trafficking in the illicit drug economy. Goes without saying. We kind of knew that. I kind of knew that. So for those who may not have known, be aware of it, right? How healthcare and substance may be used as a means of control. Come on, you got to be aware of that. Monitoring during healthcare visits. So someone coming in to monitor you on a quote unquote healthcare visit could be used as a recruitment tool to human trafficking or sex trafficking. Right? Limiting or denying healthcare, limiting or denying healthcare, using substances as a means of control, reproductive coercion, financial patterns of unnetworked sex traffickers, financial patterns of multi-victim labor trafficking types, financial patterns of labor trafficking for domestic work, and corporations, secrecy laws, and trafficking corporate secrecy laws in trafficking operations. That means corporate is involved on this. and they have laws and secrecy that contribute to human trafficking. Crazy. How finances may be used as a means of control, how the financial service industry may be used by victims and survivors and surviving contact and customer-facing staff. Look at the document with all this information, y'all. Look at the document, bro. So there you go with my input on that, Kyle. Whatever you may feel you can add to the hotels and motels, if anything in that list, you know, you feel you weren't aware of that you might want to share, drop those gems, man.
Yeah, man, no, man. I've shared. I've shared.
I'm sorry.
Huh?
The housing and homeless section. I'm sorry, not the.
Yeah. I mean, same thing. I mean, again, it's to me, it goes back to the simple premise of any advantage or any disadvantage that you have at the time, they'll exploit. Period. Simple. Like whether you're in a house, homeless, in the hospital, walking the street alone, taking drugs, hanging out, partying, taking a cab, internship, working, it doesn't matter. Like if they want to try you, they will. And we have to be just aware of all the scenarios. I mean, this is why when you have a child and the parents like, yo, go with your sister, go with it. That's why. Because, or, you know, you have a young lady, a woman who's out by herself, you know, that's why they feel the way they feel, because it's like, yo, like somebody could try to snatch me up. Now, of course, they're going to defend themselves, but still, it could be two guys. It could be a woman trying to get them two guys to be kidnapped. So, you know, it's just all these different scenarios. You know, it's all these different scenarios, but it goes back to the premise of if they feel you're at a disadvantage, they're going to take advantage.
Got you.
Yeah. Doesn't matter scenario. Don't matter if you're in New York. Doesn't matter if you're in Chicago. Don't matter if you're in Atlanta, Georgia. Doesn't matter if you're in, was it Bismarck, South Dakota? Is that it? You know, it doesn't matter. You know, if they see you and they feel like you fit whatever description that they looking for, they might try you.
Very good. So thank you so much, Kyle, for the insight on that. We've concluded this portion of reference. You can take the share off. So that's our best hit on covering the topic of human trafficking for now. As I mentioned before, Cheyenne, I'll reach out to you again, meet up with Kyle, myself, to have you as a guest on here where you can give us more insight, more information, so we can share it with those of our supporters and subscribers to help them become aware. And I'll drop some, I think you have some statistics on this as well.
That'd be good.
To boys and girls, some of that. So, this is our best attempt at broaching the topic to enlighten others. But great job, Kyle. And just be aware, like Kyle said, be aware. You know, surround yourself with people you trust. Don't be inebriated. You see how drugs relate to, that could be the gateway or the door opening into wherever you are, being in a hotel, financial industry, corporate, housing, you know, healthcare, you know, health facility and stuff like that. So all these areas you got to be acutely aware of that that's a possibility, and you don't want to get caught up in that net or in that trap. So those are, I guess that would sum up, like Kyle said, in that whole segment, we gave tangibles and action steps, solutions to those of you who, praise God, never got caught up or haven't been caught up in human trafficking and sex trafficking. We also gave some tangibles and solutions to those who are survivors of it and possibly those who may be in it now. You know, these are some tangibles and solutions that we shared with you. And again, the documentation you'll find on our YouTube at the bottom link and our Facebook page for more depth, insight. And again, repeat myself, we'll try and bring Cheyenne, who is one of the leaders of this movement to bring attention and bring an end to human trafficking. We'll try and have her on so she can elaborate in more detail. We're closing it out, Cal.
Yeah, before we close it out, I want to make sure we get them likes up, man. Hopefully people will like button down below. Definitely hit us with the likes if you're feeling what we're talking about. Definitely subscribe to the channel for sure. Because again, you know, like we really want to see the community prosper, and we want to make sure that what we're giving is tangible info out here to the people. And also, again, it's not just us up here talking, but really just to really vibe with you all, see what's on your mind, so that way we can bring more tangible info to the conversation. Because there's a whole bunch of stuff that we haven't even shared yet that could be valid for like helping you to benefit your life, or maybe get through some struggles or obstacles that you're going through right now. But I just appreciate the time that, you know, people have allowed, you know what I'm saying, to give us in order to talk to them and to be able to be candid as well, because it's important.
Definitely. Let me piggyback off that, Kyle, real brief. I definitely appreciate the opportunity. I mean, it's a situation where, like Kyle said, that it has been the theme throughout this conversation. And what that is real talk, right? Being honest with yourself. And I'm grateful because, like we said, you know, your role may not be on the front line, right? It may be in the aspect of, you know, communication and things of this nature. So as educators, as we are, I appreciate the platform to be able to be candid and real. And I don't mean any offense by what I say, but I can tell you this: I'm not going to hold my tongue for what I believe is right and what I believe is true, what I believe is fair, and what I believe is just. And I'm going to put it out there the way it is. Again, I don't mean to offend, but this is my truth. And if I encourage anybody with anything, I think, Kyle, you frozen, but if I encourage anybody with anything, we lost kind of Kyle on here. I guess he'll jump back in. And I'll try not to be long-winded. But if I can encourage anyone or anything, is to own your truth. Own your truth. If you feel that something ain't right, I said ain't, but if you feel something isn't right, then speak on it. If it's the only thing you can do, if all you can do is speak on it, then speak on it. Tell the truth. If something is going on and you don't feel a certain way, but deep inside you know it's not right, and you know you're contributing to it's wrong, then that's an opportunity for you to evaluate yourself. And that's an opportunity for you to correct yourself. So that way, at least you're contributing to the health of society and not the ills. So I don't want to get long-winded into this. My colleague Kyle dropped off due to technical difficulties, so he's figuring it out. All right, so he's figuring it out. So again, I don't want to prolong this conversation. Kyle's handle is I'll put it at the bottom. Well, you'll see it at the end of the video. You'll see his handles. You'll see my handles. So because he's not able to give his handles, I'm not going to speak on mine. But I will say this: continue to support the channel. Hey, here come Kyle.
Yeah, back. Hey,
gotcha. So I was just saying, own your truth. So if you feel something is going on and it's not right, and you feel you're contributing to that wrong, then that's an opportunity for you to evaluate yourself and fix yourself and improve. You know what I mean? And then I was saying I don't want to be long-winded, you know, but own your truth. But I was talking about handles, and I said, since you're not here to give your handles, I'm not going to give my handles. They can find it at the end of the video or in the channel. So having said that, you know, I'll close out my closing remarks. I already said it, but my handles, if you want to find me on Twitter, Instagram is Balogun Logic. That's BALOGUN LOGIC. YouTube channels is Kayode Bentley. My other channel is Perspective TV. And my third channel is Candid Advisor. Kayode Bentley, I talk about scripture. Perspective TV, I have one-to-one interviews such as we're having now with Cal. But those influencers in my community, we talk about more personal things that's in line with them. I might just have you on, Cal, on my Perspective TV, brother. You know, I had you on there already. You got you on there already, but it dealt with addiction, you know, and challenges that you have. I mean, a more personal thing. I might just do that, bring you on there. So it's Perspective TV, and that is Candid Advisor, where I serve as your advisor on issues such as career-related, relationships, things of that nature. So it's pretty in-depth, and that's good. And finally, last but definitely not least, the Grand Rising Collective, locking it down. We kick it. What you see right now, how we be going in, dropping gems and dropping jewels.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for allowing me to speak my truth on this platform, and thank you for continuing to support and engage. And yeah, like Kyle said, like, subscribe, share. You know, with the goals, we're trying to reach 1,000 by June. So, okay, Kyle, I'm sorry. That was trying to hold the fort down while you was getting back.
No, you definitely. I mean, we do that, man. You know, steel sharpen steel, iron sharpen iron. So, yeah, family, thank you again for allowing us to take up your time, you know, for a Saturday, because time is precious. And we see that now with the recent events that have been going on for a while now. But thank you again for subscribing. Those subscribers, shout out to you all. You know, was it 43 now, 44?
40,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. So shout out to the subscribers. We're going to definitely do something for y'all, because, you know, because we're building up our platform, and we appreciate you all rocking with us and supporting us in any way possible. Definitely get those likes up, definitely get those subscribes up down below. That helps to benefit us just as far as keeping us motivated. It ain't all about the money. You know what I'm saying? Money is cool, but it ain't all about the money. It's really about us giving our energy and time and skill and putting it back into the communities that help to foster us and help to invest in us and help to build us up. And then we're sending that energy right back.
There you go.
Okay. So you can reach me at DIX_KYLE on Instagram. That's DIX_KYLE. You can also reach me on Twitter at KEasy773. And I'm also here on YouTube as well as Mr. Kyle Dixon. All right. So just my name, Mr. Kyle Dixon, and it'll come up. And definitely, family, peace, power, and blessings to you.
Peace. All right. So let's see. You want to end the live or?